do it. Hello everyone, I am Zazubar, and this is definitely the first time we are recording the season premiere of Season 5 of the Sons of Serizawa podcast. Joining me, I have David Joshua Hernandez, aka Gorzard, who's here in a shocking turn of events.
The first time, William?
Well, it's the first time that the people will be hearing it, so that's all that matters, man. If they follow...
Because if it wasn't recorded... If it's not on recording, it didn't happen.
Exactly.
So you're saying Pixar didn't happen?
Yes.
And I'm saying all those dank memes didn't happen.
Because those dank memes are telling a different story, Bill.
Well, let those dank memes tell whatever goddamn story they want. I ain't telling their fucking story. I have Dylan McCandless, aka Super DM64.
This is definitely the first time we've done this in complete contradiction to the apology post on our network homepage.
Exactly. And of course, Andres Perez, aka Kaiju Noir, live from Japan.
Hello, people of the internet. Insert witty joke here.
And guess what, kids? He's not really live, so the joke's on you! So, we're talking about Shin Godzilla this week, boys. It's been out for 2 weeks in the U.S., or it was out. It's not. I think the extended theatrical run is over now.
It's over, Johnny. It's over.
It's oh God, how depressing.
It's never over.
So
that right before the end of the movie.
So to be truthful, this is not the first time we've recorded this. We tried to do this last Tuesday, closer to the actual release of the film, when it was still in theaters, technically. But something occurred with... Oh, great, we lost David. That's a good way to start these off, always. We lost the recording. There was some kind of error when it was actually recording the call. There was all kinds of digital noise, that was fucking up all the audio. You couldn't hear a word anybody was saying.
Skynet essentially took over the audio.
Yeah, exactly. So it was completely ruined. We had to throw it out, sadly. It was really, really, really depressing. Trust me. None of us are thrilled that we have to do this again. But we're going to do our best to not let that come out in our discussion of Shin Godzilla. So this will be interesting. We've never had to re-review a movie like it's the first time before. We'll see what happens. So why don't we just get into it, boys, talking about the 2016 brand new Toho Godzilla movie, Shin Godzilla. How about that? 12 years after Final Wars, we're sitting down, we're talking about it on the SOS. I kind of thought this day may have never come. So the fact that it's here, again, it's quite the event. So why don't we get right into it then? So where I think we should start this, as always, is I have a very important, deep philosophical question for you guys. Did you like it? David, did you like it?
Personally, I liked it. I liked it very much.
All right, there you go. Podcast over.
I mean, it had its issues, but I feel like they weren't enough for me to, like, I didn't think they were distracting enough for me to, like, completely forsake the movie.
Okay, Dave, let me follow that up with two questions, then. This is what I didn't prep you guys for before we started recording. This is some brand new, raw interview content, man.
Good lord.
We're about to get
scared.
We're about to get controversial, literally.
Shit's about to get dank.
David, did you like it more than 2014?
I'm not sure about that, because at this point, I feel like it's 50-50 with me.
Okay.
I like them both equally the same, because they're both different films in terms of tone.
Yeah.
Godzilla 2014 is really more of an adventure movie that's an homage to both Steven Spielberg and the Showa period Godzilla movies, while Shin Godzilla is really more of a film that's an homage to 54 specifically.
Good point, yeah.
And it's more politically heavy than 2014.
Okay, so follow-up question then, and I think this is potentially more controversial. Just to compare this to the last new Toho Godzilla movie, did you like it better than Final Wars?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. Oh, okay. Cool. I like the affirmation there.
I mean,
says the Ryuhei Kitamura fanboy.
Yeah, I'm kind of shocked at that, Dave. I know you like Final Wars a lot, so I'm kind of shocked at that.
I mean, I love Final Wars because it's like a fusion of Kamen Rider, Super Sentai, and Godzilla. But it's a movie that's dumb but fun. But I didn't feel that Shin Godzilla was a movie that was dumb.
And certainly not fun. No. Yeah, no, this movie very much so not dumb. Okay, interesting, fascinating. So let's keep it going then. Andres, since you're just the next person on my Skype thing here. Andres, did you like it?
Yes, I liked it. In fact, I really liked it.
Ooh. Now, I feel the need just to bring this up again because we lost the other recording, and this is an interesting facet of your opinion of the film. You're the only one to have seen it in its native Japan. You were the first one to see it of the four of us, and you watched it without subtitles. Did that did that impact your enjoyment of it at all?
Yeah, it really did put a lot of sort of a blockade in terms of my understanding of the plot details and the characters. However, luckily enough, I was able to fill in the blanks thanks to both Wikipedia's really elaborate plot synopses, as well as like my conversations with all of my friends, you guys included, who eventually saw the movie afterwards.
Right.
And I was able to gain a better understanding of the story and a greater appreciation for what the film was trying to accomplish in terms of its themes and message.
Cool. All right. Controversy time. Did you like it more than 2014?
Like David said, both movies are attempting to pull off two very different goals, with 2014 being more of a fun action summer blockbuster film, while Shin Godzilla was being a rather dark, satirical middle finger at Japanese politics. However, I feel like at the end of the day, both, despite attempting to do different things, both are attempting to make a Godzilla movie.
This is true. They are both called Godzilla.
And they are both theoretically about Godzilla.
In theory.
And I think
that's what we were told.
Shin Godzilla, I feel, does a better job at being a Godzilla movie than 2014.
Ooh, he's throwing shade, Andres. Ooh. All right. So, again, potentially more controversial depending upon who the fuck you are. Did you like it more than Final Wars?
Huh. I think so, because with Final Wars, it's a movie where, as much as I enjoy it, for all the same reasons as David does, I feel like it's a movie that kind of gets worse over time, like slightly worse, only because I just see lost potential. I know, like all of us were watching Final Wars the last time we were in New York.
Yeah, we did. We watched it together.
And we kind of made comments on how like this movie could have gone into several directions where it could have been more than just simple dumb fun. And I feel like with Shin Godzilla, there is not lost potential here. I feel like it attempts to do, both of them are trying to like do, I like how both movies were very experimental and they were trying to go off in wild directions that the Godzilla franchise hadn't really gone before. Like with, Godzilla Final Wars trying to be like a giant, over-the-top, wacky action flick, sci-fi action flick, while with Godzilla's being a straight-up political drama. And I feel like, again, much like the 2014 movie, it's Shin Godzilla is able to utilize Godzilla to a very successful degree, more so than Godzilla Final Wars, where Final Wars was just an excuse to have as many action scenes as possible at the sacrifice of how the monsters are characterized and portrayed.
Yeah, definitely. Especially Godzilla himself in that case. All right. Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Well said. Dylan, did you like it? Bad start. He hated it. No, that's okay.
I did like it overall. I think I went into the movie possibly the most worried about it out of all of us. I think because I've been very critical of the design, as well as, as much as I enjoyed Evangelion when I watched it, I'm not one of these people who rides Anno's dick all the time. So I was a little worried about it, and it certainly has some issues that sort of stand out for me, that sort of hold it back a bit. But overall, the overall picture, I did enjoy it quite a bit. Yes.
Have you seen Gunbuster before you saw Shin Godzilla?
I did. I have not seen Gunbuster. No.
Because it has parallels to Shin Godzilla. I actually finished Gunbuster.
Really?
Yesterday. As a matter of fact.
What do you mean, Dave? Because I've watched most of Gunbuster before I saw Shin, but I watched the rest of it after. So maybe I'm just not remembering the parts that are paralleled.
Okay, when I mean parallels, I meant like the motifs that Hideki Anno uses.
Okay.
Like, just like with Shin Godzilla in Gunbuster, Hideki Anno heavily introduces a lot of these political authorities and their ranks and their positions. And the Gunbuster itself, it shoots these lasers out its back just like Shin Godzilla.
Oh, that's
and
true.
It shoots this single purple laser that has unbelievable range, just like Shin Godzilla.
It's also kind of an unkillable, like, just total force of destruction once it finally does anything, like Shin Godzilla. Like, there's nothing that gets done to it that... Well, I mean, it does get wrecked in the end, but spoilers for Gunbuster. But it's still, for all intents and purposes, invincible initially. So that's interesting. I didn't think about that. But as we said, Anno's work all has very strong parallels with each other. Like, I mean, Gunbuster is kind of proto-Evangelion, except it has fun with itself too. In many ways as well. Andres, have you seen Gunbuster? Dylan, I know you haven't.
Yeah, I've seen it roughly a year ago. I remember I made like a Facebook post about it, summarizing my thoughts on it.
I vaguely remember that. So, do you enjoy that?
Oh yeah, I love Gunbuster. I just love it. Those kind of over-the-top giant robot animes. You know, that's pretty straight up like up my alley. And it's very different tone-wise from the rest of Anno's work that I've seen. Especially, even though it has a lot of that dramatic, very emotional, heart-tugging moments, there's still a level of what I like to call a level of those fuck yeah kind of moments.
Definitely.
You don't really see in a lot of Evangelion or Shin Godzilla.
Yeah, no, Gunbuster is very bright and poppy. And Evangelion is bright, but it's not poppy, you know?
Maybe 2.0. 2.0 is like for me one of the few times it gets to that level.
I would say that's probably the poppiest that Evangelion gets, but even still. Because Gunbuster's inspirations, you can very clearly tell, are Star Wars and Top Gun, with some Japanese, pastiches thrown in there as well. And I think that is what brings that poppy element out that Anno's work simply doesn't have. I mean, there's a theme from Star Wars in Gunbuster that they literally just steal. It's Han and Leia's love theme. You can hear it at the end.
If you think that's bad, I should show you the villain's theme from Mobile Suit Gundam F91, where it's straight up the Imperial March.
I think you have shown me that, but I believe you. But okay, we can talk about Gunbuster another time. I just wanted to get those couple questions out there. So D, back to you. Okay. Did you like it more than 2014?
I think I like them both about the same. Honestly, because both of them I thought were very good at sort of revitalizing the franchise. Yet at the same time, both of them have sort of issues for me that I don't know. I mean, I've only seen Shin Godzilla once. I didn't get to get back to the theater and see it during the course of its run. So I really would need to see it and 2014 again before I could say it definitively. But at the moment, I sort of hold them in the same regard.
Interesting. How about Final Wars?
That's a tougher one for me, actually.
Interesting.
Because what I have with Final Wars is a completely different type of experience in that I think Final Wars is a much more fun movie and one that I would be far more likely to pop in than, giving Shin Godzilla another watch if I owned it on home release,
Okay.
But objectively, I would say, it's probably a stronger film.
Fuck that. Do you like it more?
See, that's I don't know, man.
You're just not sure. Yeah, okay, gotcha. And I bring this up for they're all different things, definitely, and I think that's what makes it interesting to compare them. And I only bring up Final Wars because that's the last newest Toho Godzilla movie, and it's a similar experience. I certainly had a similar experience watching Final Wars for the first time that I had to watching Shin Godzilla for the first time. So I guess I'll get into my thoughts then. Did I like it?
Did you watch Final Wars in theaters?
No, but I'm just saying, like, getting to see a new Toho Godzilla thing for the first time is something that, it only happens every now and again, and it's something that has a very distinct kind of impact on me. And I had it carried a similar feeling both times. I think it's just, the second I get new Godzilla content to kind of mull over, I just kind of like get lost in it. I just kind of jump all over the place trying to piece different things together, trying to see what this means and how this connects and how this connects. And trying to do that is one of the most satisfying feelings I ever have in life. It's so sad. And I totally had that with Shin Godzilla in a very similar sense to Final Wars. But alright, did I like it? Definitely. I kind of loved it. I think I may be the one here who likes it the most. I think it's really great. I really like the way it modernizes 54. And I think it's hard to call this movie a remake. The last recording we did, we were kind of tossing around the word remake a lot. And it's not, because it's a different story and it's a different focus. But it is the same...
It's its own film inspired by 54.
It's the same scenario, though. And I think that's what's really important and why I think it works so well. Because it's a remake of the scenario of an atomic... Of some kind of prehistoric animal being awakened and changed by atomic warfare and or not warfare in this case, but just by atomic energy and by nuclear contamination and nuclear proliferation,
misuse of science, mankind's arrogance, the whole spiel.
Exactly, all of that is readapted to the modern day, and Godzilla himself is readapted to the modern day. And I think because those elements are what's updated. And that's the way the film plays it, just taking all of that, throwing it into the present day, and then telling a different story with it. There are some parallels that are done as homage, and those all really worked for me. But it's a different story, it's a different film. And again, I think that's why I like it so much, because it's such a good revamp of 54 for the modern day, while still being its own thing. So, do I like it more than 2014? Yeah, definitely. Only because it held up in such a consistent way between my first and second viewings in a way that 2014 did not. 2014, the first time I saw it, I was so distracted by what was different from my expectations that it kind of hindered my enjoyment of the film. And then the second time I watched 2014, I just kind of went to it just as a movie and really, really enjoyed it. And then, of course, I've done my piece in 2014. It dipped and changed over time.
Your 3-hour piece.
I did a 3-hour piece. So it's dipped and changed over time. But, I think 2014 it plays it very safe for an American Godzilla movie and for a modern American action movie. And it's perfectly serviceable for that. It's very fun. It's very, very well made. I think it's one of the best directed blockbusters in the past 5 years. Now I'm going to go further than that, past 10 years. I think you could put this, in terms of summer blockbusters, you could put this in the same list. In the same list as The Dark Knight in terms of just directing a summer blockbuster. Not story quality, but just direction. Final Wars, though, I'm Dylan, I'm with you. I do think that it's actually kind of tougher. But I think where it comes down to is, I kind of think Final Wars is more boring than this movie is. And I know that I'm probably the only person on the planet that thinks that. But Final Wars takes so fucking long to be about Godzilla that I feel, going back and rewatching it, and it's hard for me to remember how I felt about that the first time I saw it. I mean, aside from just being blown away by watching a new Godzilla thing, as I mentioned a few minutes ago. But rewatching it and the opinion that I have of it now, it's very easy to tune out in that first 45 minutes before Godzilla finally shows up. You know what I mean? There's so much going on. There's a lot of really poppy, fun stuff going on, but you just don't know how it connects back to Godzilla. And they're constantly introducing new stuff. I just feel like it's easier to kind of get lost and just lose interest in Final Wars. I could totally see somebody having that more for this movie and feeling that way about Shin, but I didn't. I was pretty much thoroughly invested the entire time. We'll get into where that may have dipped and waned, but I was more consistently invested in Shin Godzilla than Final Wars. So okay, on that note, why don't we move into some more specific things, where I want to start with this part of it, because this is the thing that I think has been the most divisive about Shin Godzilla. And we should also mention, this may be the most polarizing Godzilla movie ever made. Just in terms of...
2014 are pretty neck and neck on that front, I think.
But I think because of this movie's... I think 2014 is just controversial because of what it is. It's a new...
The lack of Godzilla screen time.
Well, but also it's a new American Godzilla movie. That carries with it a different kind of controversy than I feel Shin does. But Shin, it's the content that I think is really putting some people off and then really getting some people invested. So why don't we talk about the politics, which I think is the thing that really... it's not the only thing that's creating that reaction in people, but I think it's one of the major...
It's the most noticeable thing and the most noticeable change from the traditional Godzilla format.
That and the design, and we'll talk about the design towards the end. But okay, so why don't we open on the politics? So how did the politics play for you guys? Because I think the thing about it for me is that I was never bored as a lot of people were, because pretty much every single scene is about Godzilla, even when it's just people standing around in a room talking. And that's enough for me. Watching a Godzilla movie, even if it's fucking 45 minutes of people talking, as long as they're talking about Godzilla and reacting to Godzilla, I'm perfectly satisfied with that. And I also think that this movie perhaps does the best job, not the best job, but it does a better job of balancing the Godzilla action with the human action than a lot of Godzilla movies does. Like, I think this movie sprinkles Godzilla throughout it in such a way that I think a lot of them just don't, and I think that's why it holds a little more water for me than some of them do. So, I think the politics played for me great, aside from just being really, really interesting commentary on our modern political world, and particularly Japan's modern political world. What do you guys think? Whoever has something to say, throw it out.
I did want to bring up something that involving Shin Godzilla and its in comparison to other types of Japanese entertainment. And I do want to say, I apologize for switching back and forth between Shin Godzilla and Shin Gojira.
No, it's fine, man. Go for it.
I've been saying Shin Gojira to my students, to my Japanese students, because for those who don't know, I'm a Japanese teacher. I'm an English conversation teacher in Japan, and
an American Mexican in Japan.
An American Mexican in Japan. Thank you very much, Dylan. And so my students, they're not familiar with the name Godzilla. They're more familiar with Gojira. And so whenever I talk about the movie with my students, I would refer to the movie as Shin Gojira, trying to improve and perfect my Japanese pronunciation, my general Japanese pronunciation. And so I just got used to saying it that much. I'm not trying to be I know I was giving shit to these guys a few months back, saying it's not Shin, it's Sheen. But I'm
Shin.
I'm not trying.
Andres has officially became a weeboo.
I don't want to be that.
Yeah, but he
lives. It's impossible.
He lives there though, so it's kind of like, what else is he supposed to do?
Yeah, what other choice do you have, Andres?
It's like I'm like a closeted weeaboo. It's like, no, I'm not a weeaboo. I'm looking in the mirror, it turns into a horror movie. And I look at myself, I'm dressed like some Aunt Naruto fanboy behind the mirror. But
fucking Shin, you commie bastard.
But yeah, I don't want to be the kind of person who I don't want to come off as the kind of person who's saying Shin Gojira because I'm trying to be a Japanese weeaboo purist or something. Nothing like that. It's just, how I basically kind of got used to saying that.
Right.
But that aside, when I was talking to my students about the film, the few students who actually went and saw the film, they all mentioned that they were very surprised at the style of storytelling that they saw. In fact, one of my students, I told one of my students in advance, when he asked me, should I see this movie? And I told him, yes, if you're a fan of political dramas. Now, dramas are very popular in Japan, especially romantic dramas, but political dramas are not very common. In fact, they're pretty rare from what I understand in Japanese entertainment, in Japanese media. And so he told me that the next week, after he saw the movie, he told me that he did not understand what I meant by political drama. And at which point, after seeing the movie, he's like, okay, now I understand what that phrase means. And he told me that this movie took place in a very, what he called, in using the English that he knew, a specific reality. And what he meant by that is that, this is the political world. This is a world that not many Japanese citizens see in entertainment. Mm. Usually a lot of them are very escapist fantasy sort of deals. A lot of escaping from whatever mundane life they all live in a world where education, social status, and your jobs are considered like top priority. So to see something that's very heavily involved in the political world, something that hits very close to home, is something that's not common at all. And I think that is why a lot of people have been praising this movie here in Japan, and even myself, I've always been, I guess for the longest time I've been interested in international politics. In fact, I remember there was this video that came out, I think last year, from the Alternate History Hub. I think that's the name of the YouTube channel, where he made a video called "What Godzilla Was Real," and he would theorize. Yeah, he would theorize what would actually happen what would Godzilla's influence be in the real world, and that kind of stuff always fascinated me.
Same.
And I really enjoyed this. This was really like up my. Was a style that I heavily enjoyed. In fact, I mentioned in my Return of Godzilla review that the political aspect of the Return of Godzilla, aka Godzilla 1984, as it's now called on the American Blu-ray DVD or Blu-ray, that was always my favorite aspect of the film. And so to see that be stretched out as the full part of the full focus of this film was something I heavily enjoyed, and I enjoyed learning about like the little details here and there, even if I didn't 100% understand exactly what was going on. I at least got the gist that shit was going down. Everyone's rushing in a panic. Everyone's getting like mentally and physically exhausted over, trying to come up with some goddamn thing and having so much political bureaucratic red tape thrown in their way. It was all very enjoyable for me personally.
Yeah. I really like what you said earlier about they're not used to seeing the political world. Because I think the point of the movie is that the Japanese people in the film are not used to the political world meaning anything. And once this, and also that they're always seeking escape and everything from their mundane lives. I really like that we got a weird looking, bizarre, totally out there looking Godzilla for that reason, because there's this, I think I talked about this somewhere, there's this sort of contrast between this very, very normal-looking, mundane Japan and this bizarre-looking, totally out there, totally just alternate reality, science fiction, crazy Godzilla. And I think that that's ultimately, beyond the whole stylistic choice of Anno, is why they made Godzilla look like they did in this version, to really contrast that really strongly. And I also think that it's meant as kind of a jab, because here they have this just awful-looking, just disgusting monster just troll up onto the land, and then they don't do anything. And it's like, well, look at it. Of course it's not going to be good. Like, it's a horrible-looking mutation, and the Japanese government does nothing.
And before that, there was a lot. A lot of people have already made this comparison, where this whole movie, or Godzilla himself, is an allegory for the 2011 earthquake and tsunami and Fukushima power plant disaster. And there was one point where I think even Adam made this comparison himself on his recent live stream, that there was a real-life event where, when the Fukushima power plant was going under a meltdown, the prime minister, or it was either the prime minister or just an official statement from the government, said that nothing bad is going to happen. The power plant is not going to go through a meltdown. Little did the Japanese know, it was going through a meltdown, and that shit was going to go down. And so there was a very similar scene here where Godzilla's tail shows up, and everyone knows that there's this big, giant organism that's coming closer to the mainland. And so the prime minister says, "Oh, don't worry, it's not gonna make landfall." And then, as soon as he says that, there's a statement saying, "Oh shit, it is on land."
Yeah, that is one of the funniest moments in the movie. Everybody in my theater laughed out loud at that.
Oh, that is great to hear. I do want to hear about what your audience's reaction was to the film, because the thing about the Japanese movie-going audience is that they are very quiet. They never speak, they never laugh, they never talk, they never go on their phones, and that's kind of cool at first. But then when you try to watch something like Deadpool or Civil War, where it's a movie that's meant to gain a reaction from the audience, it's very awkward when you find yourself to be the only one laughing out loud at the jokes and everyone around you is very quiet.
I can't imagine how Civil War must have played with that kind of audience, because that airport battle is designed to be laughing and having fun with the audience while you're watching it.
And the funny thing is, luckily, whenever I go to the movies, for the most part, I go with like a big group of friends, both Japanese and foreigners, and we all kind of have the same mentality where it's like, we don't give a fuck, we're just gonna laugh because that's what the movie wants us to do.
Exactly. But David and Dylan, how about you guys? What was your audience like?
Well, I think I described it on Facebook as almost being like a mini G-Fest, you know what I mean? It was like a similar type of energy. I never knew how many Godzilla fans were in my area until I was sitting in a theater with them. And
then you really regretted finding out.
and I mean, it was fine because, I mean, everybody there was a fan. It's probably a little different from Andres' experience, since in his case it was a wide theatrical release, where in our case it was like a special thing. Right. So like everybody who was there was already a fan of that thing, and like, they got the references, and like people were like, there was laughter and clapping at points, and one little girl came to the theater in a Godzilla fucking costume, and she got a standing ovation. Like it was this whole thing.
I hope she enjoyed the film.
So yeah, what if she got out and she was like, "Oh, fucking bullshit"? But
she was like, "There was so much blood."
But yeah, so I had the movie-going experience. The theater experience itself was pretty fucking epic. So
cool, David. How about you?
I had a similar experience. I saw the movie in XD, which is Cinemark's equivalent to IMAX, and it was the greatest thing I've ever seen. But the beauty of that, since the screen is big, so is the auditorium, and the two best reactions, in my opinion, when the movie played, was when Godzilla used his atomic breath for the first time, because there was this one guy in the back of the theater who was shouting, "Yeah!" twice during that scene.
That was the scene where people lost it, in my theater, too, yeah.
I wanted to join in, but I didn't want to be one of those type of people.
one of those nerds.
Aren't you already one of those people, David?
I mean, I am, but like you, Andres, I'm a closeted weeboo.
It's like, I'm not!
And the second best reaction was when the movie ended. That last shot with the humanoid Godzillas coming out of the tail. Oh, yeah. The people in my theater, you heard gasps. They were like, like that.
What does it mean? What does it mean?
Yeah, and then the movie ended, and then when the ending credits rolled up, you heard people talking about that scene specifically, because they're like, "Oh, it's setting up a sequel," or they're like, "What does it mean?" Things like that.
I'm just like, ask Anno. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, he doesn't plan ahead.
The best reaction I got out of the entire movie was when they played the theme for Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2.
I've heard that people lost it at that.
I did not get any chills watching the movie until the fucking credits when they played Mechagodzilla 2 theme. I was like, that should have been in the fucking movie. Like, why did they save it for the credits?
I see. We didn't stay for the credits. I didn't get to hear that part, but that would have been cool.
How did the theme go?
Dun 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 dun.
Oh, that was
dun 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 dun.
Close enough, Bill.
Andres spotlight, right?
Done.
Okay,
yeah, I remember, because that was the theme that in an episode of Shoe Watch, Biggie recommended playing for the musical break.
Right, what I don't understand is why they chose that specific track from Ifukube.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting.
Maybe he likes it.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Leonardo was like, I don't know. I liked it. Fuck off.
The one they used before that was let's see, what was that one from? Shit, I can't remember exactly what it was.
The theme from Ghidorah, the Three-Headed Monster. And then before that was the 54 opening credits.
Yeah, the theme from Battle in Outer Space was another one that was very prevalent. That was my favorite musical moment.
Is that the one that was like ba da ba 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 ba? Okay,
that's Ifukube's big military march, but it's called the Battle in Outer Space theme.
I understood why they used the Showa period themes from Ifukube, because this is an homage to the Showa period films, but Mechagodzilla 2 is a Heisei film, so
That's true. That's unusual.
Again, maybe he just likes it.
Well, okay, so here's my theory.
I mean, it's one of the most badass things that Kobe did, so he probably just, like Andre said, he probably was just like, fuck yeah, I'm putting that in the movie.
So here's my theory. Two things. One, you're probably right, he probably just likes it. And I think maybe part of it is because that's one of Ifukube's most unique musical scores, like that particular theme.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he doesn't do a whole lot that's like that throughout the rest of the series. Like, that is a very distinct theme from his Godzilla scores. Two, he fucking loves that movie, and I can tell by watching Evangelion. The Evas, like the what's the term for it? The hangar, I guess, or the where they keep them. Like, they have the body arms on them and shit. That's right out of Mechagodzilla 2. And the slide up to the top ground level, that's also out of Mechagodzilla 2. So I think that he just likes that movie a whole lot. But I don't know. Who the fuck knows?
Just like he likes the color purple.
I guess.
That's why he made either that or he's a Prince fan.
Is there any purple in Godzilla 2? Not really, right?
There's purple in Evangelion. Eva Unit 1 is purple and green.
No, I know that. But, you know what?
All over the place in Evangelion.
You know what I just realized?
Gunbuster's lasers are purple.
Well,
Shin Godzilla's.
You know who else? You know who else's laser is purple? Rodan's in Mechagodzilla 2.
I thought it was more pinkish.
Yeah, more pinkish.
All right. Look, give the colorblind guy some slack here. Come on, it's close enough. Fuck off with your shit. Oh, it's purple, it's lavender, not gray. Fuck off. Let it just be gray.
That's what Bill gets for smoking.
Bill, it's not purple, it's silver.
Right, my bad. I'm sorry. You're right. My bad. All right. So okay.
Point is mute. This point is mute because the hair is blue now for some reason.
It is
true.
And whenever they do flashbacks, it's all in black and white, so that way they can use the old animation. I don't understand Toriyama. Anyway, I don't want to talk about Toriyama. I'm about to have an aneurysm. Okay.
Toriyama does not give a fuck.
Godzilla movie.
Stop it. So why don't we talk about the human cast then, since that kind of goes hand in hand with the politics. Then we can get into the story. Then we'll get into some other stuff. What did you guys think of the cast? Because that is another point of contention with a lot of G fans. A lot of people think they're boring pieces of nothing with no development and no personality. Some people really like them, and their motivations and their personalities really hit home. I'm one of those people. I've really liked the cast. I know that we don't really get a lot of backstory for them. We're just kind of dropped into this situation with them. I liked that about it. I like when movies do that, where it's like, here's a situation, here are these people, go.
It's not really like a traditionally written Hollywood type of film where it's like, this is the first act, so you got to introduce who these people are and what their ambitions are and what their goals are, and then it's like, oh, here's the second act, this is where this sort of happens, this is where you start to notice some change, and then this is the third act, this is where you see everything start to come full circle.
This is not a hero's journey movie.
Right. It doesn't do a lot of that traditional Hollywood stuff. None of that establishment. It's just like, here are these people, here, and this is the situation that they're put in. Let's see how they react to it.
Absolutely. And I really liked that about it. And it's like, we do still get ambitions and motivations for them. You know, we find out about Rando Yaguchi's, like, he wants to be the prime minister one day. He wants to go higher up in politics. But we also know that he's no nonsense and he's just concerned with getting the job done well.
Right, and you can tell, like, even though for me, so I do want to say, because this was my biggest, what would be the word, contention? Biggest problem...
Point of contention.
Point of contention with the film, where it's like, on top of the fact that I haven't seen this movie since July, and the fact that it wasn't subtitled, this was the part where I'm, like, the most hazy on in terms of... this is the part that I'm least knowledgeable on in terms of, like, my overall opinion on the film. So most of my opinion on the cast usually is aimed towards, like, Rando and Kayoko Ann Patterson, simply because they were the most unique out of the bunch, with Rando kind of taking up the mantle as being, like, kind of like a surrogate father, sort of like the surrogate leader of this entire operations, and Ann Patterson because of how kind of over the top she is with her personality that kind of takes up the whole room.
Yeah, they very clearly were like, this chick's American, let's make fun of Americans.
Yeah.
I was totally fine with that. I really enjoyed the satirical take. I thought it was spot on, kind of. Especially when you watch a modern Hollywood movie. And everybody's cracking jokes every 2 seconds. Everybody's got a big personality. Everybody wants to be Tony Stark.
Or everyone wants to write like Joss Whedon.
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely, and that's just the thing now. Obviously, it's not always the case, but I feel like this is a commentary on now, and I really enjoyed that. She's definitely another.
As soon as she bursts in, she makes like some reference to like a Spanish or French clothing line, saying like, "Do you guys got one of these stores here that I can shop at right now?"
Yeah, that was great. But just to jump a little bit more over the cast, I really like both prime ministers. They're great. I don't remember their names. The second one is potentially funnier, but they're both really funny and really.
Oh, I do. This reminds me, there was one moment where it's like throughout the entire dialogue. Maybe you might have heard this, maybe you didn't because you were paying attention to the subtitles. But throughout the entire film, people were mentioning the Japanese word "sorry." And so every time they would start a sentence, they would say "sorry," da 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 da, sorry, da da da.
Yeah, I noticed that.
That means prime minister, right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I was telling my friend because my friend, he even though he's really good at Japanese on a casual conversation level, this I mentioned in my review, the Japanese here was like really advanced. Even some of my students could not understand. My Japanese students could understand a lot of what was going on here because everything was so technical.
That's so bizarre to me. Like, because it's like you watch an American political movie. And I mean, by and large, sure, the jargon that gets tossed around is complicated. But like,
I think it's maybe the jargon.
Okay, because it's like you understand the English, though, So, okay, I see what you're saying. That makes a lot of sense.
But my friend didn't understand. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say the dialogue that confused me was the scientific dialogue. Was when they try to come up with the coagulant.
Yeah, that lost me. That lost me.
Even with subtitles, that confused me.
That's Anno's. That's a big problem that Anno has in general, though. He's really bad in scientific exposition. Like Evangelion, like they'll just go on tirades about shit, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck these people are talking about.
So he's not Michael Crichton.
What is primordial soup?
He's like the complete opposite of Michael Crichton.
So I did want to bring up like the whole thing when they were saying "sorry," and my friend didn't know what "sorry" meant.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until like a week later he said, "Okay, this means prime minister," and at that point I'm like. Oh!
I think it also just means like, I mean, you know more than me, but I think it can also just be interchangeable. You just like sir and mister, or just any kind of authority figure, I guess.
That I'm not sure. No, I think it specifically means prime minister.
Okay,
because I think I eventually did learn that in one of my Japanese lessons.
Okay, because in the movie they use, I think. And this is a strictly American problem. It gets tossed around so much to the point where it's kind of annoying. Where they're just constantly going, sorry.
Yeah.
And I
Sounds like a bunch of Canadians.
Yeah, right? That's a good point. I think that when I was reading the subtitles and they were tossing it around, I'm like, I know that word means prime minister because I've seen the Japanese version of Godzilla 84. But in the subtitles, there's no prime minister in the subtitles. It says sir or Mr. whatever.
Maybe because they're referring to him.
Yeah.
Funimation said that they tweaked the subtitles. Like,
I don't know.
Yeah, everyone needs to. Every like professional like dubbing or subbing company always has to do something like that in order to make it sound like natural English as opposed to literal English translations.
Thank God too, because I think that really kind of made the dialogue work on another level than I think any other subtitle thing I've seen has. Like, I really enjoyed this movie dialogue-wise, and even just, like, the placement of words, and there's a couple of really great just wordplay jokes in it. Like, I really liked the whole joke of some people say Godzilla and some people say Gojira. It's a Japanese thing.
They did like a reversal. They did like a reversal in this movie where the Japanese called him Godzilla first, and then the Americans codenamed it Gojira. It was like a funny joke where they reversed the origins of the names.
I thought it was that I thought it was the Americans called it Godzilla, and then when they rendered the word in Japanese, it comes out as Gojira.
Or I thought didn't they say
if I remember
like
the dialogue correctly, they start out saying Godzilla. Like
no, they do.
And then I think didn't they specifically said the name is too difficult to pronounce. Let's turn it to Gojira.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is that the Americans?
I thought I remembered the subtitle where it was like the Americans are calling it Gojira, and it's like a reversal.
No, because remember, it's a DOS code name, guys. Do you remember the memes? It's all in the memes now.
Yeah. What's DOS? Department of Security?
I guess I don't fucking know. I've really, but I think the idea was supposed to be that the Americans heard the legend of Godzilla on Oto Island, and they didn't even care that it was pronounced as Gojira in Japan. and then they called them that.
Okay.
And then when they brought the situation over to Japan, then they were like, well, what does that look like, or what does that sound like in actual proper Japanese? So they wrote Gojira. That's the way I understood it. Again, I could be wrong, but that's the impression I was left with. And because then the reason why I bring that up is there's a really great joke in the movie where Ann Patterson is with Rando, and she says something about Godzilla, and she stops herself in the middle of saying Godzilla and says Gojira, because she's trying to show that she's on Japan's side in this instance, that she's embracing her Japanese nature, not her American nature. I love that. That was a great joke.
Wait, what scene was that?
That was towards the end. It's around where they're talking about administering the coagulant, and also it's the scene where they're in the middle of the airport or the airfield or whatever, and they're talking about how Rando doesn't want to let I think Anne says, "I will not let a third bomb be dropped."
Okay.
I think that's the scene where that was.
I didn't get that.
This was a plot point that Inshoma mentioned to me, where he mentioned to me how like many times in cinema, America would kind of be portrayed as the kind of like trigger happy country that would be like ready to use the nuclear bomb at like a ridiculous it's very ridiculous how America would be like so willing to use the bomb because they're so trigger happy about like, okay, this doesn't work, let's use the bomb right away, which was I guess a big issue in Godzilla 2014 with its use of the nuclear bomb or even in like Cloverfield, how they were ready to use the nuclear bomb on their own American soil in New York.
Aliens, let's just nuke the site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
It is the only way to be. That is true.
And it's interesting that in this movie, even though the Americans are once again willing to use the nuclear bomb, they're actually very hesitant about using the bomb and are willing to allow the Japanese some time to find an alternate means of doing so.
Yeah, and I really liked that everybody was so cautious about firing any weapons whatsoever. Like, we talked about it before. The Japanese, when Godzilla initially lands on Tokyo, they don't do anything to him because they're too worried about collateral damage, and they're too worried about precedent and about this being the first time a major military operation will be launched in Japan, and about the fact that they're not fighting another country, they're fighting a living thing. So much, and a lot of those scenes is where I really got behind the film's whole, we're going to analyze what it would really be like for a giant monster, in this case a version of Godzilla, if anything like that really landed in Japan, what would it actually be like? And it totally sold me on that. I really liked how there's that scene where they're going out and they're looking at all the damage, hands on. I really like that the Prime Minister and his cabinet gets on the ground, they go to the site, and they look at the devastation. I guess you'd have to do that. Like that's what American presidents do in natural disasters too. But there was a certain degree of because we've never seen anything like that in a Godzilla movie though. Like we've never seen the Prime Minister in the midst of the destruction, So that was cool. And then Rando goes, "It was on shore for a whole 2 hours. It did this much damage, and we did nothing." Because one of the other Prime Minister cabinet members goes like, "Oh, it was on shore for 2 hours, and this is all the damage it did? It could have been so much worse." And there's a lot of that kind of mentality to contrast with Rando's point. There's a lot of, like, false optimism and pretending like these people know what they're talking about when they really don't. Like, there's that scene in the elevator where one of them goes, "Oh, Godzilla, what do they say? Godzilla, this plan will definitely work." When they're talking about what they're going to do to Godzilla with the military. And Rando just goes, "It's that kind of false optimism that lost Japan in World War II." Very powerful moment. And all of the callbacks to World War II totally worked for me in this, and really set to make the point that Japan has been living in the shadow of World War II for ever since the day it ended. Like, it has not stopped. There's that line where somebody goes, "Post-war is forever." Such a great line, and there's a lot of that. I really enjoyed all those elements as well.
Reminds me of a line that a friend of mine translated for me, where the Prime Minister mentioned how he kind of has less control over his own military than America does.
Yeah.
Where it's like America kind of comes in and tries to take over most of the military operations.
Yeah, America is happy enough to inform the Japanese government that they will be bombing Godzilla, but they don't ask them, though. That's the first time the Americans have any presence in the film. Oh, no, it's not. I'm sorry. That's very wrong. But you know what I mean? Like, somebody just gets a phone call, and they're like, hey, the Americans are bombing Godzilla! You know? Isn't this great? But there's no phone call where it's like, hey, do you guys want us to bomb that big lizard for you? Like, we should probably do that.
Right, because doesn't America have like a lot of control over the Japanese self-defense force?
Yeah, well, I mean, initially the Japanese government is like, why don't we just get America to kill it for us? And then one of them who I mentioned this in the last recording, I want to mention it now. One of them who is played by the same actress as the psychic chick who's not Steven Seagal's daughter in Gamera 3. That's her. She mentions that we are literally the Americans aren't allowed to do anything unless Japan responds first. So there's so many just interesting facets to the politics that I found really interesting in relation to Godzilla that just really worked for me. Again, I totally get that that's not what some people go to a Godzilla movie for, and the fact that it even exists, they just don't want anything to do with it. I get it. I appreciate that. But it really played for me. It played for me both times. I ate it up with a spoon. I loved it.
Well, you know, where I think this movie is at its best is in the social satire, which is almost entirely within the first third, honestly, because after a while you don't get as much social satire. It becomes a lot more about, oh, we got to get this coagulant working. But early on in the film, there's a lot of it. There's a lot of, like, just the insane amount of bureaucracy in the Japanese government. You know, I was afraid that the movie wouldn't play as well for me being an American because the political commentary is not really aimed at us. But I wound up enjoying it I wound up enjoying it in a different way, because what I basically did was spent the entire time comparing the way the Japanese were handling this to how the American government would be handling it if this movie was set in America. Like, it would not have taken that long to fire a fucking bullet at the thing. Like,
exactly.
So all of that great stuff was great. I loved whenever they, like, had to move to another room for no fucking reason. Just, like, all that stuff.
Just to make it look like they're doing something.
Right, all that stuff really carried over. Well, I said to Andres last week, the first time that we recorded this, that in a way it's almost like a Japanese Doctor Strangelove, in that it's a political satire with a whole bunch of death and destruction thrown in for shits and giggles. The problem, though, to rain on the parade a little bit, is that for me personally, and again, I only got to see the movie once, so this might change on repeat viewings, but for me personally, the human characters really didn't stand out to me that much. I left the theater, you know, not remembering any of their names, barely remembering any of their faces. The only ones I really remember is the main dude and the chick.
Rando and Anne. No, I'm kidding. I'm fucking with you.
Whatever their fucking names.
It always sucks to be like an American where you cannot, like, it sucks being the one thing that kind of sucks about being an American, or the thing that sucks about the cultural differences between, like, or like, what do you call it, the stark difference between the Japanese culture and our culture is that it's always more difficult for us to remember characters' names. And, like, for me personally, I've always felt guilty not being able to remember certain characters' names off the top of my head, and that I would have to go to Wikipedia to try to remember them. And
I do not feel guilty. I don't give a fuck. Anne, what kind of crazy Japanese name is that? Anyway,
well, she's technically
Kyoko,
American.
thank you.
Oh yeah, it's Kyoko.
She's Kyoko Ann Patterson.
Anyway, she was the only character that really stood out for me afterwards. But there was even a problem with that, because I was really distracted throughout the entire movie by how fucking bad her English is.
Yeah.
Right. Oh. I mentioned this in my review as well, and even in our first recording, that when I was watching this in the movie theater, my friend Jonathan and I were, like, leaning forward with our ear, like, cartoonishly, you know, sticking our ears out towards the screen, trying to understand what the fuck she was saying.
Oh my god, Andres, her English, que terrible, you know what I mean? Like, fucking...
No es bueno.
See, I even told Andres he should show it to his students as an example of how not to pronounce things.
I have students who sound better than her.
Like, how hard would it have been to find a Japanese actress or a mixed actress who could actually speak the language well? And I don't normally mind bad English in a foreign film because it's just sort of par for the course, but it becomes a distraction when the character is supposed to be American.
And born in America. She has a line where she goes, "My grandmother's country is pretty fucking great." She's never been to Japan prior to this, clearly. Or at least that's the impression that I got. So God knows why her Japanese is so much better than her English. Like, God knows what the in-story explanation for that is.
It's kind of funny. It's like this a sort of opposite. Go ahead.
She's born in America, yet she has pitch-perfect Japanese pronunciation, yet her English sucks. Can you imagine how it would be if, like, Andres, having lived in America most of his life, spoke, like, terrible English, but his Spanish was flawless? It would be
it would be like if Mexico made a movie, right? Where it was about, like...
I love where this is going!
Where Mexico made a movie about a giant lizard attacking their city. And they were like, we need an American-Mexican, like, consulate, so they get Andres, and... They present, they present him as an American born in Mexico, and then he speaks Spanish, and it's like, you know, it's broken phonetic Spanish, and then his
Hola, mis compañeros,
and his English is pitch perfect. It would be like that. I kind of mixed up that analogy a bit, but it would be like that. It would be like that situation.
Funny enough, there was like an opposite thing that happened. There was an opposite thing that happened when my friends and I went to see Suicide Squad earlier this month, or at the end of September, actually, where there was the character, what was her name, like Katana?
Katana,
yeah, and she spoke Japanese throughout the entire movie, and many of my friends pointed out that Japanese sounds like too clean, too like professional, where it's like, you can tell. My friend said, oh, this is someone who does not speak Japanese fluently, this is someone who's Japanese is a second language.
Right, definitely.
So it's really interesting to see, like, the opposite thing happens when an American were to have a Japanese character speaking Japanese, and people are like, that shit don't sound natural.
Interesting. That's fascinating to me.
There are white people in the movie. It's not as if people who can speak English are in short supply. They could have found somebody, you know?
Yeah, they're all terrible, though.
I think the actress that is wonderful. I just think that her English was really distracting for that reason. But again, she's the only character that I really walked away from the movie theater like remembering. So I guess something worked.
Speaking of memorable characters, I can't say anything about this because, again, due to the limitations of my viewing experience, but apparently everyone has been falling in love with Laptop Girl.
Laptop Girl's great.
Yeah, she's become a meme.
Yeah, she has become a meme. She's, well, beyond meme. Memeifying somebody is one thing. But the fan art is off the wall. Like,
it's hilarious. It's hilarious and adorable.
It is. There's so many like Tadpole Godzilla fan art. Like, it's madness.
They gave Tadpole Godzilla a name, Kamata-kun.
What the fuck does that mean?
What? Kamata-kun. Kamata-kun. That's his nickname now. And Kamata-kun is based off of the district where Godzilla first makes his appearance, Kamata District.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that.
And kun is like a suffix that they add to the name of someone that you kind of cherish as in like a family member. Kind of like with how they would add like chan, sensei, sama, and that sort of stuff to people. San, they attach to people's names.
Wait, is it a common thing or in Japan?
Kun? Or? Yeah. If you watch any Japanese, if you ever watch any anime with subtitles, you may see a person's name with kun attached to the end.
Oh yeah, go watch fucking Dragon Ball Super, man. Everything's Trunks kun this and Goten Chan that. It's all over the place.
What's the difference between kun and chan?
Chan is what you Okay, Chan is what you
explained this to me a few nights ago. I actually messaged him this exact question.
Chan is what you call someone who is just very tiny and cute. Kun is what you call someone who is like very close to you as a family, like either as a family member or like a family member.
So I would technically refer to every single one of you as kun?
No, because it's not really said to two people of the same gender because it just doesn't sound right.
Wait, so what does a male call another male who's like
nothing, just san.
On there in Japan.
It's like it's kind of like I would say I don't know. It's very awkward if a dude were to call another dude by an affectionate name.
Bill Kun. I smell another dank meme coming tonight.
It's no slash fiction. So much slash fiction. Bill said that we needed to vent on the cast for a minute because he's BRB. So Any other thoughts about the cast?
Damn it! So he
I did like that one. I did like that one dude with the glasses who handed Rondo the water bottle. He's like, dude, chill the fuck out. Water bottle guy. He's the real hero here.
That was a
we have laptop.
That was a great scene. I love that. I'm back, by the way. Sorry, my cat was freaking out. I had to be like, dude, it's all cool. Have a water bottle.
Yes. I also like the small bits of humor where it's like, because the characters have been around each other for so long, they kind of sometimes drop the formalities and kind of get beat real with one another, such as the water bottle sequence, and even something as silly as like the shirt sequence.
What shirt sequence are we referring to?
Where like everyone's like I think it was Glasses dude who's like, dude, Rondo, you need to change your shirt, man. Please, everyone got you this damn shirt. Please change into it.
Yeah, that was a good moment. It was dragged out too long, and there were a couple of moments like that.
Yeah, it had a little bit of a Ghostbusters 2016 thing going on.
Yeah,
like, that was a funny joke.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. There was a bit of Ghostbusters 2016 in there. Another joke that really worked for me though. I love the soggy noodles line. That really worked for me too. Because it was so well paced. They cut to it. He's like, "Oh, these noodles are soggy. This job is going to be harder than I expected." That's a great line. That is a great line. I love that. But yeah. So I think we're about ready to move on from the cast. And kind of the human story in general, I imagine. Maybe there's a couple things we'll mention. But
since we're talking, though, I have a major thing about the movie that just left me scratching my head.
Okay, hang on. Is it about the cast?
Kind of.
All right. Well, let me just mention this one last thing, then I'll let you go. I really liked Towel Guy too. I don't remember his name. There is definitely a problem in this movie.
Oh, the old guy.
There's so many characters. Keeping track of their names is definitely impossible. So I will agree with you on that, Dylan. But I really enjoyed him because he just didn't give a fuck about anybody. He was like, "Oh God, why am I here? Why is this weird? Why am I dealing with this weird dinosaur? Oh God." I loved him. I thought he was great. But anyway, Dylan, go ahead, make your point.
Okay, this is kind of a cast issue because it does involve a human character. However, one that we never see. There's a huge mystery revolving around this guy whose name escapes me.
Maki Goro.
Yeah, that motherfucker. Like, we find his boat at the beginning of the movie, and he ain't there, and he's nowhere to be seen, and like the boat hasn't been torn apart or anything, so Godzilla couldn't have come in there and got him. Like that would be some major Lost World Jurassic Park syndrome. But the motherfucker's just gone, and you never see him, and you never know what happened to him, and he like leaves clues and shit that helps him develop the thing that they used to beat Godzilla. He's almost like a Serizawa who's never actually in the movie, and it's just bizarre, you know.
He's like half Serizawa, half Yamane, which is why I wrote a post somewhere where I was like, Shin Godzilla is pretty much a remake of 54 if Yamane and Serizawa were the same person and killed themselves, maybe. Because that was one of the implications that I maybe saw, was that he may have killed himself. And the only thing that I really thought led to that...
a little bit of a Mifune vibe. I also got a little bit of a Mifune vibe from the fact that he has these outlandish theories that he's not really taken seriously for, you know.
He is very Dr. Mifune. Good point.
He has this hatred towards humanity. He's like, you can all go fuck yourselves. Good luck.
Exactly. He's aware of a creature's existence that nobody else believes him on. That's a great point. But
coincidentally, they used the Godzilla theme from Terror of Mechagodzilla in this movie.
Did they? Was that from
Terror?
They did. Was that from Terror? I thought that was from I thought that was from Mothra vs. Godzilla.
No, they used the one from King Kong vs. Godzilla when Godzilla first appears in his fourth form, and then they switched to the Terror of Mechagodzilla version.
Oh, okay, that's
awesome. Some forms
I know
here.
this, Bill. I got the soundtrack.
I believe you. But the thing that made me think suicide was he left his shoes behind. Maybe that's this Japanese thing. But
oh yeah, that is a Japanese thing.
But the way it was organized, I thought maybe he kneaded up his entire boat. He took his shoes off, and then he jumped overboard, which may have also happened if another fan theory is to be believed. And maybe
shitty suicide. Though.
Yeah, maybe he jumped.
Not just he'd die.
Maybe he jumped overboard so he could be absorbed by Godzilla.
That's what a lot of people are theorizing.
That's what I think.
That is the possibility.
I think that may be what happened.
especially given Godzilla's ability to evolve on the fly. It could be that absorbing Makigoro's DNA is what allows the creation of those whatever they are at the end of the film. There's another interesting biological theory that involves Godzilla that we talked about the last time we recorded this fucking review, but I'll save that for when we actually start talking about Godzilla.
Yeah, we'll get there in a few. There's only a couple more things I wanted to get into. One of them is that Makigoro is the only Godzilla character in this to be from, or at least the name is from other Godzilla stuff. Makigoro was the name of the reporter and son of Godzilla, and he's also the name of the reporter in Godzilla 84. I presume that it's more of a reference to 84 because this is kind of it's kind of a remake of 54, but it also pays a lot of homage to 84, particularly in the politics. Because 84 is a lot more about politics than 54 is. And
what if out that it wasn't a reference at all? It was just like a common name.
That would be really weird, especially since he's the human.
Andres.
Especially since
Is it a common name?
I don't know.
Says the guy who lives in Japan. No, I feel you.
He's not running a fucking sentence, you guys. Okay,
he's not running around asking everybody their names, trying to find out if Makigoro is a common name.
I mean, he can ask his students.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Bring it up next time you have class. Be like, is Makigoro a common name? They're going to be like, no, not at all, you fucking weirdo.
Just like asking, is Beyonce a common American name?
It's like, well, no.
You have some homework on. You have some homework now, Andres. I demand that you go out there and perform a census.
God damn, I graduated to get away from this shit.
I really liked Makigoro. I didn't mind that he wasn't in the story. He kind of had a similar... That allowed him to have
but I get what you mean.
It allowed him to kind of have a similar presence to Godzilla because he's never in the same scene as the human characters, but you always feel his presence. And again, I always love the human connection to Godzilla in a Godzilla movie. Like, in 2014, it's Ken Watanabe's character, Dr. Serizawa. And you have, and in Final Wars, just to bring that up again, you have Captain Gordon. He's got the connection to Godzilla in that movie. I always love those characters. I always love the impact that Godzilla leaves on them. And I think it's interesting for that reason that we don't get to meet him in this, and that he's mysteriously disappeared. But yeah, I really loved all that. And I loved that he had a beef with the Japanese government because his wife died of radiation sickness and they did nothing about it. Now, did they ever directly explain where the radiation came from that killed his wife? Are we supposed to assume that it was the bombing of Hiroshima or Nagasaki, or is it...
I don't know, but we never get an idea of how old this Makigoro motherfucker was supposed to be. So if he was like an old fuck, then maybe.
We see pictures, but he just looks kind of vaguely middle-aged.
If not, maybe she got radiation sickness after the Fukushima thing. I mean, that was long ago. That was long enough ago now that I could buy that,
But it seems like he's been working for the American Energy Corporation for a long time, like decades maybe, because he's been monitoring Godzilla. Maybe he's only been doing that for a couple of years, but I got the sense that was a decades-long endeavor, especially since he has so much data on Godzilla. But I don't know. It's certainly a mystery. I would have liked to have known more about it. I'm definitely with you, D. But he was very interesting. I found him compelling, and he left an interesting impression on the story to me. I also loved what he wrote on the envelope: "Do what you will," or something along that line. Do whatever you want, something like that. I really liked that it was like that was kind of the message of the movie, was you follow your heart, you do what you think you have to do. That's the only way you get anything done in this world.
In other words, follow your dreams.
Well, no, I don't think it's really follow your dreams.
No, I'm joking.
Okay, well, I think that's a funny way to compare it though, because it's interesting to compare that to Rondo's mentality, where his dream is to have a more proactive Japanese government that gets stuff done that he's in command of, and that this guy shows up and is like, here's this massive disaster, here's all this information, do what you will. I don't know, I found that really interesting. And maybe questioning the role of individuals versus the role of big government. And obviously that's what the movie's about, that individuals are where our ideas come from, and it's the role of the government to simply comment on them and question their use, and how that all rolls into each other. I don't know, this movie had so many different compelling thematic threads that are really grasped onto, and that was one of them. But okay, does anybody else have anything they want to say about the cast in particular?
Well, what I was about to... It's not exactly a cast note, but it does involve the scenes that they're in. Is that relevant, do you think?
My next thing is, let's just bring up any lingering thoughts about the story, so go for it.
Well, this is sort of a... one of my other complaints with the movie. I think you could lose a good 15, 20 minutes of the political discussion that goes on. I think not to the same extent as 2014, but I do think the ratio of Godzilla to human is a bit off here. And one thing about those scenes, though, in particular, from a cinematography angle, I feel like all the Godzilla scenes are really impressive in the way they're shot, and then the human scenes are less so. There are moments where the camera is desperately trying to be interesting.
Maybe that
like,
was
for example, there's one scene. For example, there's one scene where they're sitting around a table just having a conversation, and the camera, for no reason at all, it's not trying to draw your eye anywhere. It's just rotating around the table. It's like it's afraid to be still because then you might get bored, you know. And then there's another moment.
An FPS first person perspective from the laptop screen.
There was the one that jumped out to me the most was when she's passing the paper around, like she's tossing it to people as they're sitting around the table, and it's like you get really close up on the paper and you cut to different angles of where the paper is going. That's the one that jumped out to me the most as the most distracting of that, because I totally agree with you.
Well, there's another. There was another moment when it was one of the few scenes where the humans were just like outside instead of being in an office. There's a moment when the two characters that I remembered earlier but can't remember their names still are having a conversation outside, and the camera does like this slow zoom out, but it's not zooming out to anything. Like there's nothing else in the frame that they're trying to get you to say, "Oh, look what's over there." It's just like it's just there randomly. Like the two characters are just sort of drifting off to the side. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and that's interesting.
It's like, what am I supposed to be looking at here? Like, what are you trying to get me to see? I don't understand.
Because I feel like that's an American thing that they stole, kind of. Like, because that's something that American movies do. Well, they'll just have the camera zoom in or out or push in or out for no fucking reason, just to make the thing more visually interesting. I noticed that in a lot of action movies, especially Michael Bay does that. He does that a lot, where he's just like, well, the camera's still, this is not going to work. We have to do something, so let's zoom in or out really slow, or push in or out really slow with a dolly.
Well, there's an odd thing that I got watching the movie where at times it almost feels, and this is going to be a stretch, but stick with me. There are times where it's that you get sort of a Jason Bourne vibe, because you cut from action scene to a bunch of people in a boardroom, and the camera's cutting around frantically trying to make you interested. Like
I feel that.
Like back and forth.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. I think that's definitely a solid comparison. That makes sense. All right, well, why don't we get a few more things out about the story? There's only one thing I really want to bring up, and that is the blood coagulant, because it pretty much takes over the story at a certain point after Godzilla shuts down and is asleep in the middle of Tokyo, and it's a problem because we spent so much time on it already prior to that, before Godzilla shuts down. Like, there's so much just talk about how we can make it work, what the coagulant will do. It's all made clear, it's all talked about prior to Godzilla's attack on Tokyo and prior to him shutting down. And then I was really with the movie at that point, because I was like, oh my god, where is this going to go? Godzilla's shut down, they're talking about they're going to nuke him, what's going to happen? And then they're just trying to figure out how to get the coagulant working for, like, it's got to be a half hour. It's got to be over a half hour. It's got to be. And what the movie thinks it's doing to keep you interested in the story is the mystery of, what did Maki really know about Godzilla? What the hell is this giant, like, diagram of his DNA mean? What is it showing us? What is he trying to point our attention to? And it wasn't interesting to me at all. The mystery of it did not play for me at all. And that's because the scientific exposition does not work at all, because it's just nonsense.
Exactly.
Can someone explain the origami thing?
No, because I don't understand it either.
I don't understand that either.
those are the scenes that I would definitely like start cutting first. If I
Yeah,
was gonna
I completely
edit
agree
the
with
film.
you. Yeah.
I would go with less of the scientific exposition because it just serves to confuse you. Because, like you said before, Ono kind of struggles in that department. It was also made frustrating by the way the subtitles were done. I know we're probably going to talk about that.
Yeah, we should talk about that. Yeah.
But yeah, so we could lose some exposition there. I don't think you need as much as they were trying to pull off, especially considering that they weren't pulling it off terribly successfully.
Most Godzilla movies are 90 minutes or 95 minutes. I don't understand what the fuck they thought they had. Why the fuck they thought they had to make it 2 hours. Like, I don't get it. Like, there's no need for this movie to be 2 hours long. It is there's a lot of complexity to it, but the story is very simple. A monster attacks a city, and the government tries to stop him. That is the movie summed up in a nice little package. And all of the complexities to it are not so much plot points as they are just new developments and new thoughts and new kind of angles on that idea. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of like really hardcore plot necessarily to this. It's a lot of contemplation and a lot of reaction. You know what I mean? But okay. So why don't we talk about the subtitles then? We mentioned before how Funimation tweaked them so that way they read more as natural English. That was a great idea. Good on them. That worked out well. But maybe then they should have cut out those subtitles on the top because my god they were distracting. And my god did they eat up so much of the frame. There are so many words on frame at some points that you can't even see what's going on. Like, it's a problem.
Is, would they have been able to do that, though? Would they have been able to do that? Like, did they have access to the raw footage where they could have just not had the subtitles in there at all?
That's a good
Or
question.
I doubt it. I really doubt it.
It doesn't... Wait, so for when you guys saw the movie, did they still have the Japanese subtitles on there?
Yeah,
the Japanese
yeah, they did.
All
that
Japanese
makes
text
no
is still there.
sense.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Well, because they're there for jokes a lot of the time. They're there for
right.
They're there for satire. Like whenever somebody gets a new title, they show you, and when you see them again, they put the new title up. It was funny when they're like USGAF fucking bunch of shit after it Rando Yaguchi. Like that was really funny. But
like
they do it every fucking time though.
Like it makes sense if you still keep it makes sense if you still keep like the Japanese subtitles to like an old property like Jirenja, where it's like you still have the subtitles of the monster's name and then you have an English subtitle to tell you what it means. But then this is a new movie. It would have been so easy for Toho to say take all that tech shit out and send it to Funimation.
But also those in Zyuranger, those subtitles don't come up when people are talking, so it's fine. And in most Godzilla movies that do put Japanese text on the screen, it's not when people are talking. In this, it's almost
it's usually for an establishing shot.
Yeah, it's almost exclusively when people are talking in this one though, and that's a massive problem. Just from an American point of view.
That's why it becomes difficult. Chris Stuckman did a tirade about this when he reviewed the film recently. You have Japanese text telling you who a character is or a location or whatever, and then there'll be English subtitles overlaid over that to convey that information to the English-speaking audience. But at the same time, you've got all this dialogue going on, and that'll be at the bottom of the screen. Sometimes you like mess up and read the wrong subtitle, and all of a sudden you've missed a line. And it's very easy to miss a line anyway. And this isn't Funimation's fault, but the film is edited very quickly at points, and so a lot of times you just lose dialogue altogether. So it became very difficult to read, especially in the beginning of the film. I sort of adjusted to it as the film went on, but early on it was certainly a problem.
Here's my personal issue with the subtitles, or the subtitles that Funimation did. I noticed that the English subtitles that were used for the Chinese releases, they did them properly. Like when they introduced like a character, they would put the English subtitle under the Japanese text, so it's more easy to read. In the Funimation version, the English text is in the middle of the Japanese text, so you kind of have to like lean in closer to read it thoroughly.
Because it's blurring together, yeah.
Yeah, I found that a major issue.
Half the time that was just distracting me anyway, because I was trying more to focus on the dialogue subtitles.
Yeah.
Wait, so David, you saw the Chinese version?
No, it's because I haven't seen the Chinese version of it, but I seen the Chinese trailers, and apparently they have both the Chinese subtitles and the English subtitles.
Right, I saw the Atomic Breath clip of the Chinese version on YouTube, and I saw they had like three types of subtitles for Japanese, Chinese, and English.
Right, and the good thing about that is that the English subtitles they have their own space. They're not inserted within the
like
Japanese
on top
text.
of.
Yeah, like in the middle of the Japanese text. Like it makes it difficult to read on the Funimation version. Another weird. What's not an issue with the movie, but it's something I questioned. And it's okay. In the Chinese versions, they refer to Godzilla as Godzilla in the subtitles, but here they refer to him as Gojira.
They do both
the whole time.
They call him Godzilla. Right. They call him Godzilla and Gojira.
Yeah, but I mean, wouldn't it have been like, well, not easier, but wouldn't it have made sense for Funimation to switch back to Godzilla after that scene where they introduced the origin of the name?
No, I disagree because I think again you couldn't have that joke later on that I like.
Right, it's like I think I told you on Facebook, David, where it's like, oh, Godzilla sounds too difficult to pronounce. Let's go with Godzilla.
Right, but with the Chinese releases though, they kind of did exactly what I just said. They switched it to Godzilla, like in that scene where Randall says, "So that's Godzilla." In the Chinese version, the subtitles say, "So that's Godzilla," but in the Funimation version, he says, "So that's Gojira."
I think Funimation made the right call because at that point, it became a plot point that there were two different pronunciations. Like usually when you watch a Godzilla movie, whatever version you're watching, they'll use one name for him, and that's just in universe what they call the monster. And you as a fan are aware of the fact that there's two different pronunciations, but it just doesn't come up in the movie. This time, the movie made a plot point out of it, so I think the subtitles should address it accordingly.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. All right.
That makes sense.
All right. So, on that note, why don't we move on to Godzilla himself then, and kind of wrap up on that, because I'm sure we've all got a lot to say, and we're already really far in. So, let's spend the rest of the video talking about that. So, how did Shin Godzilla play for you guys? It was one of the most controversial Godzilla designs ever unveiled. He's got a different origin. This is the first time in Toho's Godzilla history that they have ever completely rebooted the character back to just square one. Always in the past, they've done sequels to the original where Godzilla is an established thing prior to whatever current events happen in that movie. This is the first time they've ever done, this is the first time Godzilla's appeared in the world, and it's in the present day. How did that guys play for you? How did that play for you guys?
I mentioned from the beginning... Oh, go ahead.
No, you go on. I have a feeling your point is probably shorter than mine.
All right. I mentioned from the beginning that I've been a fan of this radical interpretation of Godzilla from the get-go, and when it comes to the change in origin, I was all for it because I feel like after having a character have the same background for over 60 years, I felt like now would be definitely a good time to kind of spice things up, trying to change up things a bit and give us a new interpretation of the same character, as long as it's still respectful to said character. And that's the thing I mentioned in my review as well, original review, that even though it's very different, it's kind of like an Elseworld sort of thing, where it's like you can experiment with a different take on Batman or Superman, Spider-Man. And I feel like you can do the same with Godzilla.
I agree,
as long as even if you don't like this particular interpretation of Godzilla, you still have over 60 years of material to fall back on. And the thing is, like, at the end of the day, he is still Godzilla. The thing is, there have been many interpretations of Godzilla, but this is a version of Godzilla that's still very, very loyal to at least the original version of Godzilla, the classic interpretation of the God of Destruction, the living, walking natural force of nature, all that jazz.
And D, I know you wanted to say something, but I just wanted to go off of what Andre said, because I'm really happy you brought up the Elseworlds, because that's exactly how I thought about this movie from the very get-go, and that's kind of what I wanted it to play as. Because we've got a very status quo Godzilla right now with Legendaries, and we've also got the IDW comics, which is a very status quo Godzilla. So I wanted Toho to do something kind of weird, and I wanted them to do something a little different. And
especially when some people have kind of criticized Toho for being too close to the original series within the Millennium, was constantly recycling old ideas.
Yeah, and whatever. They all do different things with it. I'm fine with that. But I was like, we've got a status quo Godzilla in America. It's the first time we've ever had that, so let's enjoy that for a couple of years. Let's see something kind of different from Japan. So I was definitely on board from that perspective as well. But Dylan, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm glad, Andres, that you mentioned the fact that you were behind the design from the get-go, because I famously was not.
Yeah.
On that side of things, me neither, yeah.
It grew on me a bit over time, and especially after I got the Bandai figure, I grew to appreciate it more. But even still, even going into the theater, I was very cautiously optimistic, you know. What I wound up finding is that I think it works fine for this movie, and I don't ever need to see it again. Godzilla, if you're listening to this recording right now, before your next movie, I want you to go to the gym, pump some iron,
Do some planking.
And as for your skin, Godzilla, it's never going to heal if you don't stop picking.
You got some crack.
It's never going to heal if you don't stop evolving.
That's a Batman Forever reference. Anyway, but yeah, I think the design works fine for the movie it's in. It after I saw that the first form that made landfall, it made me long for the one that I had grown used to, honestly, because that thing is fucking terrible, and I hate it even now. But yeah, I think he works fine for the movie he's in. Just design-wise, we can talk about characterization and stuff like that in a moment when we get everybody's just general thoughts. But yeah, I think it worked fine for this movie. Don't ever need to see it again. If the next movie winds up being a direct sequel to this, then have him evolve again into something just different.
Okay, interesting. Now let me ask you this quick. Would you be okay if they did something radical again, but he evolved, or do you want something more traditional? Because I think that's... I'm not saying I want either way, that's probably what people are wondering after you said that.
I think it's fine to keep experimenting and doing neat things with the character. I just think you have to walk sort of a fine line, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay. David, your thoughts on the design and Godzilla himself?
When I first saw the design, that they were going with that, I was like, really?
Yeah.
With that? Because my first initial thoughts when they revealed that design, I was like, it looks like something that they would have made during the Showa period. But then eventually, as I got used to the design, I started, liking it. I started digging it because the 54 design is one of my favorite Godzilla designs. And Shin Godzilla's design is clearly heavily influenced by the 54 design in many, many ways. Especially in the teeth and the googly eyes.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, the teeth is a good point, yeah. Also, the skin that's around the charred parts and the bloody parts is very 54.
Right.
I didn't see the comparison between the googly eyes until I thought about it later. The reason I guess it just didn't stand out is that 54 has eyebrows, whereas Shin kind of doesn't. His eyes are just sort of there. You know what I mean?
They all melted off, I guess. But yeah,
as far as the characterization of this Godzilla goes,
well, hang on, we'll get there in a sec. Hang on. What did you think What'd you think of the floppy tadpole Godzilla?
I actually found it kind of creepy, surprisingly, because in pictures it looks cute, but in motion, it's creepy.
I think maybe the reason for its existence was that maybe Anno wanted to have the audience be just as confused and disturbed as the people in the movie, and he knew that if he were to have a traditional looking Godzilla, or at least the final form of Godzilla, make his first appearance looking like that, then there wouldn't be the audience and the people in the film wouldn't share that same. There wouldn't be that resonance in there in the experience.
Yeah, because that's kind of what I had with it. Andres, did you give your thoughts yet?
On the final form, yeah.
Okay, cool. So let me just throw this out there quick about the tadpole one, and then I'll quickly talk about the final one. So, Tadpole Godzilla. When I first saw that thing, I was like, "What? What are they doing? What were they thinking? And
That's what everyone I've talked to says. Even my students, my own mother, everyone.
Yeah, but I mean, when I finally see it in the movie, initially I was initially more so because of the CGI. I was like, oh god, what the fuck are they thinking? But then as the movie goes on and the politicians start to react to it, I went, okay, I think I see what he's getting at here. One, they want you to underestimate Godzilla. They want you to go, what is that? That does not look scary at all. It's not intimidating. It's a big floppy mess with googly eyes. And that's exactly the reaction you had. Everybody in my theater was laughing when he first popped up, including me. I couldn't help it, even though I was trying to keep my composure. But it's hilarious. He's big, floppy, poorly
rendered.
Poorly rendered. He looks fine. It's the compositing it with the rest of the frame that doesn't look good. And that's a problem also when he evolves. It just doesn't composite with the background properly. But I think it's there because they want you to underestimate Godzilla, because that's what the humans are doing. They're going, who the fuck cares? It's this big floppy thing. What are we doing even? Why are we even caring about this? But, and then of course he evolves and he just starts wrecking shop and everybody is like, oh god, we fucked up. And, you've also got the line where it's like, we didn't think he was going to come on land. But I think, and this is maybe more important given a scene later that's amazing, I think you're supposed to find Godzilla a little vulnerable. You're supposed to see him and go, oh, it looks like you could just step on that. It looks like you could just crush that under your foot.
It looks like it wants to be put out of its misery.
Yeah, I think that's the idea, though, because this Godzilla, the thing about 2014 that me and a lot of other people had a problem with is that he's not a mutation. He's nuclear powered. But this Godzilla really runs with the mutation angle, and that I think is the idea behind that particular form.
And I mentioned it in the Lost recording that it's funny how they kind of split Godzilla's traditional origin into two separate directions with both Shin Godzilla and Legendary Godzilla, where Legendary Godzilla, he's a dinosaur but not a mutation. With Shin Godzilla, he is a mutation but not a dinosaur. And
it's vague what exactly he started out as. I mean, we talked about this last week. You guys said he started off as some kind of fish. I'm not completely convinced.
I think I really want to think. I haven't seen the subtitled version, but I've had conflicting reports as to whether or not he is or is not a colony of microorganisms working in tandem, similar to that of a jellyfish, but on a grand scale.
This is the other theory that's been floating around that I wanted to discuss when we got to this point. Because I had an argument with somebody on Facebook over this.
Oh, Dylan.
It's hinted at in the movie that he might be. It's not confirmed or anything, but I got a vibe that might be what's going on. He's in a way similar to how Destroya is a bunch of crabs that
or Hedorah is a bunch of sludge tadpoles.
Yeah.
I thought of it more like the Thing.
There's not enough in the movie to confirm or deny this theory. What I do like about it, though, is if he is really a gigantic colony of microorganisms, it explains why he's able to evolve so quickly.
Right.
Because evolution evolution typically happens over generations, and microorganisms could go through, depending on the microorganism, thousands of generations, within a day of human time.
Yeah.
Potentially. So potentially it explains all of that, and it goes partially in a way to explain the size of the creature, because if he is just a colony, then as long as they keep reproducing, he could theoretically continue to grow. So it does explain quite a few things about his what we see him do in the film.
Yeah.
So those are all points in favor of the theory. Like I said, not really enough to confirm or deny. Bill, I hear your point that you made a few minutes ago about how they want you to underestimate Godzilla at first.
Mm-hmm.
I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Here's why I think it don't work.
Okay.
It doesn't work. Because you already know what he's going to turn into. There are 30 fucking Godzilla movies. You can't play this coy shit at this point. We know what's gonna happen. We know what he's gonna be at the end. We've if we haven't seen the other 30 movies, we've seen the trailer most likely. We know what's gonna. I mentioned in the Lost recording that I love the concept of a kaiju that's constantly evolving like this, but I think that concept kind of gets wasted on Godzilla, because you have that concept that could potentially give you anything, yet we already know going in that it's going to turn into Godzilla, so it kind of deflate. I would love to see another kaiju movie made with that same premise and just let them do something crazy that like mutates into all kinds of crazy forms.
I think that's where the new powers comes in, where even after he's turned into a more familiar form, he's still surprising the audience with brand new, never-before-seen abilities.
It's true. When he fires his breath out of his back, that's a big moment. Like, that's a big, like, oh shit, what? Kind of moment.
Yeah, I loved that new attack. I loved that new attack. Didn't care for the tip of the tail laser. That one a bit far from me.
A lot of people didn't. I was fine with that. But yeah, Dylan, I see what you're saying. Of course, we all know what he's going to end up looking like at the end. But in the moment, I don't know. It played for me. Like I was just like, what is this? Even though I totally knew where it was going and what was going to happen, I was still like, oh, what is this? What's going on? What's the deal? I don't know, that worked for me. And again, I really feel like this movie does a good job of putting you in the perspective of the Japanese government and the people reacting to this. And that worked for me on that level as well. But I don't know, maybe it was just me. I totally get why people hate it. I totally understand. It makes perfect sense to me. But it didn't bother me. It played for me. Again, particularly because this is a totally different take on Godzilla. It's its own thing. It's very standalone. So I was fine with it from that perspective.
Also, I do want to share this image on Facebook with you guys, that they essentially turned Godzilla into a Pokemon.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Let me just say this one thing as well, just to mention about his origin. You know, all the many organisms making him up or whatever. You know, that's all. Who knows? The movie doesn't get into that, and more than that, nobody in the movie has any way to find out because the people who knew about it are dead. So it's all speculation at that point. We have no fucking idea what Godzilla's deal is in this movie because none of the characters can comment on it with any kind of specificity, particularly before they get a sample of his DNA. You know, once that happens, we can kind of be sure of some things, but before that, they're
Andre, where can I Pokemon go to get one of these? That's amazing.
He's the rarest of Pokemon.
He is.
You have to go. You can only find him around Fukushima.
I understood the reference.
That's a plane ticket I'm not about to buy.
That's the only Pokestop where you can find him at.
Oh wow, yeah, that is great. It should have been Laptop Chick though, who's holding the phone, not some random Japanese girl.
Only available in Hachioji.
Turkey Goji, that's great. Let me ask you guys about this because I think this is definitely a point of contention. Maybe we can get into the special effects a little bit in this as well. What did you guys think of his third form, where he evolves from the tadpole into a bit more of a traditional Godzilla? You know, when he's walking around leveling the buildings and stuff, and there's that awesome track drop from 54. It's called Godzilla Evolves on this soundtrack, but
oh yeah,
the
dun dun dun
dun dun boom. I love that moment. That was a musical moment that was perfectly lifted from 54 and dropped seamlessly into this film because it's perfect for that moment. That being said, that effect is garbage when he evolves. Garbage.
It's like they.
I thought it was somewhat of an improvement. I thought it was somewhat of an improvement because at least he like stood up on his hind legs. But it was weird because he was still kind of bent over, so it was almost like he looked more like a traditional dinosaur in that moment.
Yeah, he did look a lot more traditional dinosaur at that point. But that, I think, was Hideki Anno getting to remake 54 in that moment, like, truthfully, like really the closest he ever got. Because you got that music playing, you got Godzilla walking around a lot more quickly, leveling buildings, he's roaring a lot more, he's roaring with the 54 roar. That was another thing, Godzilla didn't roar nearly enough in this movie. But
when he did, it had an impact.
Well, yeah, it has a place, because the whole idea is supposed to be that he's supposed to be creepier because he's not making any noise, and he's not acting like an animal, he's just walking. And because he's not roaring and making a lot of noise, when he's just standing in the skyline, it's kind of creepy. But it's weird watching a Godzilla movie where that roar is not just happening every second he's on frame. You know, like that is one of the distinctions this movie has over the other ones that was a little off-putting to me in the theater. But I get it. It's there for a reason. Totally fine with it.
Because usually they drop that roar like all the time. Did you guys watch that that fucking old like Japanese student film that I shared on Facebook the other day?
I watched.
Not yet.
I watched part of it. I didn't get to see all of it because I was at work. But I was dying. Especially King Ghidorah.
So you gotta watch.
King Ghidorah killed me. I was dying.
You gotta watch it, and it's fucking genius. But But in that, when the dude's doing his impression of Godzilla, like that's more what you expect. Like he's doing that roar every like 5 minutes, or not even that far apart.
No, way close, every second. He's like, and there's so many variations on it.
I don't know why I said 5 minutes. I meant to say like every few seconds he's just like, and he's like doing it in like his like normal human voice. Like he's not even trying to go like high enough. So like,
yeah. It's so good, so good.
I was like, what's Godzilla gonna look like in the student film? And it was just a dude in a suit with some spikes taped to his back. It was great.
I really liked how in Shin they used every Godzilla roar except Millennium's. Because they used a variety of different roars. They used the 54 roar, they used the classic Showa roar, and they used the 84 growly roar a bit as well. Like I think it was only once though. How'd you guys feel about that? I really enjoyed that because this movie was kind of it's kind of a big summation of what Godzilla was originally supposed to be like and what he was supposed to be about. I kind of like that we're kind of including all these different Godzilla roars to kind of make this as much of a summation of Godzilla as possible. I really enjoyed that element of it. And Millennium would have felt out of place too, because that roar would not fit this Godzilla. But okay. Oh, let me just say this other thing too. I didn't get to bring this up. I haven't really talked much about the actual final evolution he gets into. Because Dylan, you and I talked about this on DFOS a lot. We were both very like, there better be a good fucking reason for this nonsense. And I totally lost that, like, as the movie was going on. Because I feel like there is enough of a reason for him to be like that, not to the extent that I was hoping for. Like, I was hoping that they were going to be like, this kid got hit with, like, so many nuclear bombs, he's so fucked up.
Right.
There's no
but he's not a
that.
burn victim at all.
No, not at all. He's as far as there's no mention of him getting hit with a bomb. I'm fully open to it happening. In fact, I'm kind of hoping that it did, but there's no mention of that whatsoever. There's only mention of him feeding on atomic waste. What they explain is that he was an organism living at the bottom of the ocean. They dump all this nuclear waste down. He feeds on it and turns into Godzilla. That's what they say. In fact, there's a great moment where they're like, "Oh, poor Godzilla, look at his crooked teeth. He can't even prey on atomic waste anymore." I didn't really understand that line, because I'm like, does he even need to? Like, because does he have to feed on atomic waste anymore? Because they do mention at one point, like, well, if Godzilla does reach a nuclear plant to feed on it, we're fucked beyond belief. But that doesn't seem to be his goal, and there's no sequence where he seems to be trying to feed. Him running out of power is a major plot point, which I really enjoyed. I think that's great. And him cooling down his body's processing of the atomic radiation was a big plot point, but he doesn't seem to have to renew his supply with an outside source. He seems to be self-sustaining at this point. He seems to be like, as long as you let him recharge, he'll be fine. Like, he doesn't have to actually get nuclear energy from an outside source. Which is interesting. We've never seen that before. Usually he has to feed when he's when he's actually powered by atomic energy, like in Heisei and Millennium. He's got to feed. So I thought that was interesting. But just to get back to the design, I was fine with it. Again, I really think that the weird-looking, outlandish Godzilla works in this context because of the mundane Japanese setting around it. The contrast really plays. If there's anything about it that doesn't work for me, it's actually the spikes. I think that the spikes on this Godzilla are potentially too traditional, maybe? Like, I've been dying to see some maple leaf spines ever since I saw 2014, because that's the 2000 kind of shape designs. So I was
but even more like condensed and triangular.
Yeah, but this was very traditional. I kind of wish they'd gone with the 2000 look though, because that would make a little more sense, I think, with this outlandish, whacked out mutation design. But I don't know. It's a nitpick, of course, but that was the one thing where I was like, they look disproportionate to his body. That and his tail is way too long. That is a fact.
Yeah, that is still a problem for me.
There probably is some reason for it, but his tail can literally not be on frame unless it's moving because of how long it is. Like, that's madness.
Also, the thighs on this kid. The thighs on this kid. Jeez.
Oh, I was going to bring up the thighs, too. The thighs make it look like he shouldn't be able to walk. Like, even in this over-the-top context, like, he should not be able to move.
The Godzillas in the past who have had thunder thighs have also been, like, super muscular. This is a skinny-ass Godzilla with these gigantic fucking thighs. Like, he should just be anchored to the ground, you know?
Well, he does have those classic kind of dinosaurian theropod feet where he is anchored into the ground. So, I guess that's there for that reason. But, what I was going to bring up, though, was maybe the idea is supposed to be that if he is healing, as we suspected, maybe he heals from the ground up, because his legs and his feet are probably the most normal Godzilla-looking thing on him, except for the thunder thighs. You know, it's from the torso up that things get really unusual. You know what I mean?
The torso has it worse. It's like straight out of Freddy Krueger. Like,
yeah, I'm looking at it on my Bandai figure right now. He looks...
Yeah, and they constantly mention that the exposed red parts of his body are meant to, like, allow his blood... The exposed blood allows him to let off heat to, like, cool off.
Yeah, to cool his systems, which I really enjoyed that. That's right out of Godzilla vs. Destroya. So it's cool that we got that. But, you know...
The thing I wanted to bring up is I like the idea where it's like a mutated... If this is a colony of creatures... a colony of microorganisms trying to act as one single organism. I like the idea of it trying to evolve into something that could work on land using whatever gene inherent in, like, whatever old untapped genes it has in its body system. Kind of like if you were mentioned this in the lost recording, that imagine if you told a child to draw a dinosaur, but the child has never seen a dinosaur before, but you're giving the child a basic description as to what the dinosaur looks like. So when the child ends up drawing what he thinks is a dinosaur, it's not going to look exactly perfect. And I feel like maybe that's what they were trying to go for here, where it's like an organism attempting to make a dinosaur, but it's not quite perfect because it's a mutation.
Good point. I really like that. Thing is, I meant to say this before, I just didn't, because I got on other points. The only problem I have with this... potential problem that I have with this Godzilla's origin is twofold. One, I need a bomb in there somewhere. I really do. Like, I can't... Godzilla's origin without a bomb is weird, you know? Like, it just doesn't play for me. But, the other thing is, I kind of need him to start out as a dinosaur. I need him to start out as something prehistoric. That's
so what you're saying is you need the exact opposite of the origin that they gave us in this movie. Like, that's not a problem with the origin. That's just you saying, oh, well, I kind of need it to be everything that the old origin was. Like, that's the two parts of it right there. Like, there's no more deviation.
Well, no, I'm saying...
You know what I mean?
Well, no, I'm simply saying that... Well, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. We're missing the bomb and we're missing that he's a dinosaur. But we don't. That's the part we don't see, though. So it doesn't really make a difference in the movie that we have. You know, like that's all kind of. It's not talked about that much. It's all kind of just spaciously vague. But I need him to start off as, you know, a dinosaur or just something prehistoric. I don't know. That's just me. It's something I kind of want, because otherwise, aren't we kind of veering into like American 98 territory where he's starting off as a lizard? Like that doesn't play for me either. I don't know. It's not really a big.
It's amazing to me that the fans lose their shit over him being a lizard in that movie. Yet in this movie, it's pretty much implied that he probably just started out as a fish. I mean, he has fish eyes, for crying out loud, and everybody's just like, it's fine.
Well, they do.
Only because the Japanese did it. Let's be honest. So some fans have that.
That's kind of I don't know. I'm more okay with it for that reason a little bit. Again, because I was okay with a weirder Godzilla in this instance because we've got other versions.
The thing is, like, a fish is like the ancestor of all terrestrial life.
Oh, you're really reaching there, buddy. That's some reaching going on there.
But a lizard
also
is like a fish.
So by that same logic, you should be okay with Godzilla being a lizard in '98.
No, but the lizard, the iguana, the fucking iguana is a completely different evolutionary path than the dinosaur. Okay, if it was a mutated bird, I can imagine it turning into Godzilla. If it was like a crocodile, maybe, because a crocodile and the bird are the closest living reptile, the closest living relatives to dinosaurs. But a fish, you're able to go further back into a creature that can evolve into a dinosaur.
2014, I could buy as a mutated crocodile.
turning a lizard into a dinosaur and turning a fish into a dinosaur, though, is still, like, by that same logic. It still applies with the same logic, though, because you're still turning a less complex organism into a more complex organism through pseudoscientific bullshit. You see what I mean?
I don't really want him to be a fish. I'm not really about that.
Again, maybe there's a reason why the origin is left completely vague.
Yeah, again, I think that's kind of why. But also, they do say that he's some sort of ancient form of marine life. So I think that that's meant to kind of imply dinosaur, because that I'm for sure was mentioned, that he's ancient.
What if he was like some marine life similar to like a mosasaur?
See, that's where I drew that. That's actually, Bill, where I drew the implication that maybe he is a colony of microorganisms, because there is no more ancient form of marine life than fucking ancient microorganisms that live in the fucking ocean.
Huh. That's interesting. Okay. But yeah, I would be fine with a mosasaur. I mean, he wouldn't look like that, but he wouldn't look like that if he was a colony of microorganisms or a fish or a dinosaur. Even he would be dead.
He looks more like Ryga.
Exactly. So who knows?
Really, if it's true that he absorbed that one guy into his genetic makeup, it could be that he's an amalgamation of all kinds of creatures that have been absorbed into a big collective
stuff.
Yeah.
All the stuff, indeed. All right, we're almost about to the end here, so I want to spend the rest of the time talking about Godzilla's characterization. What little of it that there is.
Before we get into that, I did want to talk about the effects work here.
I was going to save that. I was going to save that, but go for it. Let's talk about it now.
Because I had a spiel in the lost recording, and now it's lost.
Go on your spiel.
I feel like there's been a major effort in recent years on the Japanese part to try and catch up with America in terms of CG, and they've got half of the equation right, because here's what happened with this version of Godzilla. He is phenomenally rendered. Skin textures, everything, phenomenal, fantastic. They really spent a lot of time doing that. But then when he moves, it's oftentimes very like jerky and staccato and not really realistic looking. There's one shot I remember like being taken aback a bit in the theater. He gets hit by a bomb or something, and then he kind of staggers a bit, and it was super unnatural the way it looked.
Yeah, I agree. That shot stuck out to me too.
When the eel Godzilla was going down the street, he moved in kind of a weird way. Also, he was like flopping all over the place. He looked like a Chinese New Year dragon.
Yeah, those effects did not hold up at all.
There are some shots that you can tell they spent a lot more time on and maybe had a bigger budget for, like when he uses his atomic breath. That scene, his movements are very fluid and it's beautiful. But a lot of the other scenes, like I said, you can tell which scenes they spent more time on, because a lot of the other scenes have this problem where like, oh, it's rendered wonderfully, but it just doesn't move right. And so even though there are scenes in this movie, specific scenes that look better than anything from 2014, I still think that 2014 has better effects overall, because even though the creature itself might not be as well rendered, it moves very naturalistically the whole time, and so it never really took me out to the same degree. Whereas in this case, I got taken out of it a few times just by noticing like the weird, unnatural way that it was moving. And I don't think that was done on purpose to add to like the weirdness of the creature, because I've noticed it with other like recent Japanese things as well, where they're still experimenting with their CG. I think
definitely, it's a new thing for them, especially doing it in a big budget context like this.
Yeah. And if they did want to make it move unnaturally on purpose, there would be a correct way of doing that, and this is not it. This is clearly just, we didn't have a lot of time or money.
I think that they did it in the movie, the successful way of doing that, whereas this Godzilla moves a lot more traditionally than Legendary's. Legendary's moves a lot more like a dinosaur. He kind of...
Hunched over?
He's hunched over, but he also kind of... He's always propelling himself forward, like he always kind of looks like he's cutting through the air forward. This Godzilla doesn't have that. He kind of drifts, He kind of drifts across the frame.
And I liked that.
That's a lot more traditional.
I liked that in 2014 because I always said if we're going to have CG as opposed to a suit, then I want them to take advantage of that and show Godzilla moving in ways that he could never do before. And they did that in Legendary. And there was even some of that in this movie too. There was one moment where like the third form Godzilla like crashed through a building that looked really good. Yeah, there are just these moments. You compare that shot I was talking about of him stumbling right after he got hit by a bomb and how like herky-jerky that looks and awful. You compare that to that beautiful like fluid sweeping motion 2014 where his tail goes through the smoke. It's no comparison, really.
Oh, no, definitely not, yeah. Can you imagine if they would have tried that? And
again, there are budgetary differences, but I think more so it's just a fact that they're putting all their eggs in the rendering basket to make the skin textures look as realistic as possible, and they're not really spending as much time on the movement. I don't think, the keyframe animation, the boring part. That's probably why they don't focus on it.
There was also a very specific direction with the skin texture too, so maybe that's why they put more work into it, because Anno didn't want it to look like a living animal. He wanted it to look like it was made out of rubber. That was the idea.
Well, I think the thing is, it's
because I think that's why the rumors went on forever that they were going to do a mixture of effects in the movie, and then we found out that everything was CG.
I still cannot believe that. I was astonished when I found that out, because I was like, that's not a suit? What?
Yeah.
I think this was due to the limitations put on Anno, where it's like he realized that it was impossible to make this design work with a suit or animatronic, so he decided, okay, so it looks like CG is the only option. So if because I cannot make this look as good as an animatronic in CG, might as well take it in a direction where the CG can work, and that let's make it intentionally unnatural.
Well, here's the problem I have that me and Patrick Galvin have with that decision, that Godzilla does things here that you can accomplish with a rubber suit or an animatronic, because he really does very little to nothing here. He just simply walks forward. Yeah, he doesn't even,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I actually finished.
Oh, well, I disagree, only because you couldn't do this design with a suit, though.
We're actually reaching a really weird point in our movie-making history now, where the tables are turned, and in a lot of instances, it actually winds up being cheaper to do something CG than to build something. So,
right?
Maybe not cheaper, but CGI allows everything to be accomplished in a more controlled environment.
That's the thing, is that you don't have to spend as much money on principal photography. You can be cheap on the principal photography side of things.
Okay.
Put all your money into the CG. Which is not a great way to make a movie. It works okay enough here, because I think that mentality is definitely in place in this movie.
Well, we've all seen the documentaries about old school suitmation, and how like making the suits is one thing, but then you also have the people who build the model buildings, and that is an extraordinary amount of time and effort and materials, and making sure everything's to the proper scale, and it's so difficult, honestly. People sort of like to point at Godzilla films and be like, oh, they just put a guy in a suit, stomps around some Legos, and it's no, it's way more complicated than that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, and I think that I would have maybe liked to have seen bits of a suit, but I really liked, Andres, I like what you said. It's oddly off-putting to see what could have been and is trying to look like a suit rendered in CGI. I think that kind of makes Godzilla creepier and more unnatural. I really like that stylistic choice, and there's a lot of that in the movie where it's kind of deliberate homage to create some kind of different feeling than it was supposed to when it. Okay, it's trying to create a different feeling in the modern audience than what its homaging was trying to create in the original audience. Point one, the atomic breath. Let's talk about it a little more detail. That is definitely the best scene in the movie, bar none, but it's a different take on the atomic breath than we've ever seen, because it's completely uncontrollable, seemingly. At least initially. After a while, he seems to get a handle on it. But
it starts out as fire, and then once he focuses it into it's a straight up laser in this version. It's not like other versions where it's a blast of energy. This is a laser that cuts through shit. Once he focuses it to that point, he seems to be able to control it a lot better, because then you just point the damn thing. But at first, it's very chaotic.
Yeah, and I love that he shoots out gas, then he ignites it, then it's fire, and then it concentrates into the beam. It was a great visual. Also, it was cool in the final action sequence when they were injecting the coagulant and they were bombing him, where you can tell that he's running out of power. It's a good visual cue where the beam adjusts from purple, then to red, then it turns into fire, then it evaporates. I thought that was visually very cool. Mm-hmm. I really like that you could tell that just by the visuals.
And like you mentioned in the Lost recording, that scene, the whole sequence alone is worth the price of admission.
I think that and the final coagulant injection scene is worth the price of admission, because that scene where they're dropping buildings on Godzilla is also insanely cool, and the trains riding up him and shit. So cool. The CG isn't.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Also,
the CG in that scene is a lot easier. But
also, you don't really see a lot of building.
Home Alone sequence, as I like to call it, because it almost feels like the fucking kid from Home Alone set a giant trap for Godzilla.
Yeah, Godzilla is the wet bandits.
You don't really see a lot of building destructions a lot in films. Usually you see it like one time as like a centerpiece, but it's always really cool when it happens.
Yeah, and there wasn't, especially in the big, he's fully evolved attack scene, there isn't a lot of buildings getting knocked down because he doesn't get to, because by the time he gets to the middle of the city, he loses power. And he does it all with his atomic breath. I really
that scene is really good, but then the scene where he freezes is another one of those CG moments where it's like super cartoony.
Yeah,
I wish it wasn't as instantaneous because of how fast he froze. It felt a bit anticlimactic.
If it had been kind of slow, like this, like his body basically turned to stone. I don't understand how the coagulant did that, but if it had been kind of slow and like you saw like the stone effect sort of creeping up his neck and maybe he was twitching a little bit, that would be cool. But he just like instantly like freezes like somebody just took his fucking photograph.
What they should have brought the blood back in, had him like desperately trying to cool his body down or whatever. What I think the idea was supposed to be is that they were turning the cooling system against him, so when it kicked into overtime and froze him. So what if the blood spills out like he does earlier in his final form, which would show that something's wrong because he's reverting back to a former evolution or doing something his former evolution did, and the blood spills. When the blood spills over, those parts freeze, and then you do it that way, so you can do it a little more gradually, and you can cover up some of the shoddy CG with the blood cascading over. You know what I mean?
It needed to be more of a moment. It sort of just happens and then it's over and you're on to the end of the movie. Like it was almost like, all right, we're 2 hours in now. Let's wrap this shit up. And I'm like, no, this is one moment where I wish you would take a little bit more time. Damn it.
Right. This is one of our biggest issues with the film. Perhaps the biggest issue with this film is the pacing. And perhaps if they had like a little less time dedicated to the boardroom meetings and the political satire, like ease up on that, and they could have given us a more extended climax and more satisfying climax.
Yeah. The other thing is, I just remembered this actually. The sound design in this movie for the most part is really good. But there was another moment where the shit got kind of cartoony when Godzilla first comes out of the sea in his apparently fourth form, even though apparently I missed a form somewhere along the way.
No, the thing is, okay, I'm gonna see. I think I might have the picture, but everyone says that there's like a first tadpole form only because there's this one statue of Shin Godzilla that had a little tiny statue of a tadpole, and everyone claims that is the first form. It's never in the.
But I heard that was like vegetable or something that they base the skin texture off is what I heard.
I think the idea is supposed to be that he grows out of the tail, because if you look at the initial landing and you look at what he looks like, he kind of looks like a pulpy mess that grew out of the tail. The tail's also the first thing we see of him, so I almost wonder if and it's also fully grown. It looks just like the whole time.
I sent the two images on Facebook.
So I think maybe the idea is that he starts out as the tail, and then he kind of grows out of it into what we see later.
You think that weird, like, face on the end of the tail is, like, his actual original face?
Maybe.
I have no idea if that's even a face.
It's clearly a mouth, because when he fires out of his tail, it opens. Like, you can see the mouth open.
Mm.
Yeah.
There's also some teeth around the tail.
Huh.
Shit.
Like, you guys didn't notice that in the last shot of the movie?
No, I saw the teeth around the tail.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that looks more like a vegetable than a tadpole.
What I was going to say is there's another moment where shit gets kind of cartoony, this time in the area of sound design. When they first start shooting at Godzilla after he arrives in his fourth form, the sound effect that they use for the bullets hitting his head, it sounds like metal on metal, you know? It sounds like they're like shooting the side of like an armored car or something. Like it doesn't sound like they're actually shooting a creature. It's like clanging, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think that was off-putting as well because all the tank sound effects and explosions come from classic Godzilla movies. They used stock sound to kind of create that old-school feel. And I think that was kind of at odds. I agree, yeah. And it also just didn't make sense with what they're shooting at. Like, that's not metal. All right, so we're actually...
Maybe the idea is that his skin is so thick, but I didn't.
Well, that's because it's a lot more like classic Godzilla than 2014 is. Because when 2014 gets hit, he sways and he feels it. Like he's like, what are you doing? This Godzilla, he doesn't budge until they drop the missiles on his back. That's the only time he ever budges. So
it's kind of convenient, though, in a way, like when you can hurt this Godzilla and when you can't. It's like you can't hurt him until you can because the plot needs you to. You know what I mean?
Well, it seems like the bombs that actually hurt him because they hit him right on the back, which is where his cooling system is, and they also catch him by surprise. Because that's the first time they try. That's the first time they try bombing him from above. So I don't know. Maybe that has something to do with. I don't know. I was okay with it. It didn't take me out of it. So okay, we're at 2 hours. I wanted to kind of keep this around there, but there's a couple things I wanted to bring up as well. So let's hammer home the characterization, just so we can move on to kind of speculating about the ending.
There is none.
Well, so what they say. So when they're like,
compared a lot. It's getting compared a lot to 54, but even 54,
nah,
I think
he's not like 54.
They're both. The reason I understand why the comparison exists is because they're both sort of like forces of nature that just sort of go single-mindedly along their business. But the difference is 54 has a ton of personality. Like he's pissed throughout that movie.
Yeah,
you don't really
definitely.
get that. You don't get that from Shin Godzilla. I feel like Ono purposefully, like, and very clinically scrubbed all the personality out of the design. Like there's no, like I mentioned before, the lack of like a prominent like brow around the eye. Like there's just nothing on the face to convey emotion. He doesn't have eyelids. Like
he just looks constantly like and I think, I think you're right though, D. I think that he intentionally scrubbed that out though, because the only character trait that I get from this Godzilla is pain. That's it. Because the only time we really get any sense of personality out of him is when he fires the atomic breath by accident. He clamps his mouth shut to try and keep it in because clearly it's hurting him. And then it fires out his back because all the energy is built up. That is an awesome, awesome moment. We've never seen anything like that in a Godzilla movie before. Where he, like, clamps his mouth shut, and it's just that shot of him looking down, trying to, like, hold it in, where it's almost like somebody trying to not throw up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really liked that. And I get the sense that the only thing that this Godzilla feels is pain. And I find that interesting because they're constantly talking about him like he's just this unemotional destroyer. And, like, you know, that he's just this thing that's there to punish them and destroy them. But I don't think anybody ever stops to go, well, what is he really feeling, though? Like, you know, they talk about what he wants, about what his goals are, about what his behavior is. He just walks. But I don't think they take a lot of time to consider, well, what is he feeling, though? What is he like? I don't know. What is he about? And I think that the design and what we do get of personality is all meant to convey pain, and we're supposed to feel like that thing looks like it wants to be put out of its misery because he probably does.
I think the music itself, both Persecution of the Masses and Who Will Know, those two songs, they kind of convey what Godzilla might be feeling.
Well, but it's interesting that you bring up the whole pain thing, because, and again, you saw the movie twice at least. I
saw it twice, yeah.
Okay, you saw the movie twice, whereas I only saw it once. I never got the pain thing. Like, when you were talking about the atomic breath sequence, I didn't really pick up on that. I almost wonder if the design is done the way it is, like, so aesthetically cleansed of any, like, inherent personality, so that it becomes a sort of Rorschach test to the viewer, where they sort of, like, put their own interpretation upon it. Because you've got this whole thing about him feeling pain all the time that I didn't pick up on at all.
I don't know. I really, especially the part with the atomic breath where he clamps his mouth shut and it comes out of his back. That was really the moment that sold that to me. And then one of the only roars we get towards the end is when the building falls on him, and it's clearly like he's going, "Oh, fuck me." Like just that's a moment where he's like, "This is not a fun scenario I wanted to end up in."
I expected this movie to take, like, literally nothing from 2014, but there are some things in common that this Godzilla has with 2014. They both get winded after using they both wind after using their energy attacks to any major extent. This one even more so because, well, he does put on much more of a light show than 2014 does, but he goes to sleep for like days afterwards.
Yeah, I think it's weeks, as a matter of fact. I think they mentioned that.
And they're also both getting like buildings dropped on them and shit. Like there were some similar sequences that I wasn't expecting. I was expecting this movie to be way more like "fuck you, American" version. But you know, this American Godzilla movie did go
I think there was a bit of that. I think there was a little, especially with the gills at the beginning. When I saw the gills on the tadpole Godzilla, I was like, "Are they making fun of 2014?"
But I think
I remember I noticed the gills when the design was first revealed in that trailer, that one poster, and I mentioned it.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I think part of the reason it's different is that this American Godzilla movie actually did go over pretty well in Japan. So while they might be poking fun at it to an extent, I don't think they would have nearly the it's not like a 98 situation.
No.
They're not going to have like... They don't have any hostility towards 2014 like they did with 98, clearly.
I don't think they're going to have a scene where Shin Godzilla blows 2014 up.
I think they kind of... They seem to maybe revere 2014 in a respectful manner. After all, they featured Heisei Godzilla and 2014 Godzilla in the same video game.
That's true.
Well, you know,
as equal rivals.
The few Japanese people I've heard of that didn't actually like the movie had reasons of like non-traditionalism, and that's interesting because the American version is actually way more traditional.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, does anybody have anything else to mention before we talk about the ending?
I want to point out in regards to the design of Godzilla. You guys remember when Shinji Higuchi said that this was supposed to be the most terrifying Godzilla in the franchise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally didn't get that from this Godzilla in terms of character or design, because, like I said,
I've seen some other people say that he is the scariest one they've ever seen. Here's the thing. I think it all comes down to what you find intimidating, personally. Like, I'm way more intimidated by GMK's, like, blank white eyes and, like, gaping maw, but that's just me. Like, the whole burn victim motif doesn't really do it for me.
Again, I think it's more off-putting than it is scary, but I can see both sides. I was more off-put and kind of creeped out by it than I was kind of scared, you know? It's more of like, you see it from across the room and you're like, ugh, you know? Like, that's more of what I felt, more than like, oh god, get this thing away from me, ugh, you know?
That sounds like your high school days, Bill.
It was every day in high school. That was but that was the way the women reacted to me, you know? That was more how it went.
Bill, before we move on to discussing the ending in particular, we haven't really given any lip service to the score itself. I mean, we mentioned some Ifukube music that they reused here and there, but we haven't really talked about the score itself. I thought it was perfectly fine.
I didn't think there was enough of it, but I loved what was there.
It sounded a bit too familiar.
Yeah, there were some tracks in there that sounded a bit,
unoriginal.
David, you were trying to say something?
I was going to say that I was surprised how well balanced the score was with the original score from Shiro Sagisu and the Ifukube scores and the Evangelion cues.
Oh, we should talk about the Evangelion cues. I think we mentioned this in the last recording. I thought they got old after a while. Like, initially I was like, oh, cool, the Evangelion action.
Yeah, the first time was cool. The second time around, it's like, okay, if you're going to use the song, actually do something cool with it.
Yeah, and it's like...
I didn't notice... I only noticed it once. Maybe it's because it's been longer since I saw Evangelion than you, but I only noticed it the one time. But they did it more often in the film, how they reused Evangelion music. At least the end credits didn't play "Fry Me to the Moon."
Oh, that would have been kind of funny though. I would, especially if that was like, if I would have stayed after the credits, if they were like, "There's a surprise song at the end," I would have been like, "Oh, please tell me it's Goodbye Godzilla." But I would have been equally as happy with "Fly Me to the Moon." Yeah.
Fry me. Fry me.
I'm sorry. Pardon me. I'm sorry for my proper pronunciation.
There's another Dank Bill meme right there.
Oh, fuck me.
Technically, that's not how the Japanese pronounce it.
Everybody shut up. Everybody stop talking on this strictly audio medium.
You can kind of feel Anno's pedigree throughout the movie, though, because it very much feels like a live-action anime a lot of the time. I almost feel like if the actual Godzilla anime that we're getting, if it winds up being way more traditional than this, I might wind up in a weird situation where I wish they were reversed and this was an anime and that was live action. You know, like that would be a weird.
Yeah, good point.
That would be a weird situation to find myself in.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I think maybe the side to that as well. this is like one anime element thrown into a normal world. So I think that has its own merit. But I see what you're saying, yeah. Especially where they're talking, especially Godzilla's evolution. That would have looked better in animation. So I'm totally with you.
You could have moved like an actual thing that exists.
Yeah, certainly. All right. Anything else? Anybody else have anything else they wanted to toss out there before we speculate about the ending and then give our final scores and then go the fuck to bed? I will take that as a no. Let's talk about the ending. What the actual fuck?
So, is Godzilla evolving into a race of human Godzilla hybrids? That's one interpretation I've seen. Is he reproducing? Is he reproducing? Is he making tiny Godzilla human-looking things that will then grow into more Godzillas? Is he creating some sort of new race of like hench monsters? I don't know.
Is he trying to escape? Because maybe the idea is supposed to be he's frozen in that form. Maybe those forms are him trying to escape from it, and they die before they can.
Like John Carpenter's The Thing with a spider head.
Yeah, because they look like they're trying to pull themselves out. They look like they're in pain. They look like they were trying to climb. I mean, it's very, very obvious.
Screaming at God as he looks in on them.
Yeah, I mean, that's very clear, like, Tower of Babel kind of, like, imagery that they're recapturing there, which I think maybe is supposed to parallel back to the nuclear side of this, in the arrogance of man thing.
I see what you did there, Andres.
Yes, I got someone picked up on that.
I missed it. What?
You'll catch it later when you're editing this, and you'll be like, "Damn it, I missed that."
Yeah, I'll laugh and be like, "Oh, I'm gonna cut it out now just to spite them."
Maybe it's supposed to be some sort of metaphorical meaning where Godzilla is a product of mankind. So what if this is supposed to represent mankind, the new generation of mankind being a product of Godzilla?
Yeah, you mentioned that the last time. I think that could be it. I
kind of mean that half serious, half jokingly.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think more the impression I got, and what I kind of want here is, don't worry about what the fuck anybody else thinks. Just toss out your own interpretation. What I took from it was that we see early on bits come off Godzilla, and they like grow teeth and everything, and they grow like a mouth, and it looks like if you blow a chunk of him off, and it gets. Logan, stop meowing. Nobody cares. When you blow a chunk of him off, it grows.
I just got a mental picture. I just got a mental picture of like Hugh Jackman in your bedroom meowing for some reason.
Oh, this cat likes to meow. What? Thank you. So he meowed right after I finished saying that. So what I'm saying though, what I took from it was that he is reproducing, but it's more like I don't think he's doing it intentionally. Like I don't think he's going, I'm gonna reproduce because it's my time. It's time for me to start a family. I think it was more like, well, there's just bits coming off of me that are turning into other organisms. What I kind of took from it is that's like the catalyst that's Hideki Anno's crazy fuck you vague ending, but it's also him going, this is how you get other monsters in this universe, where bits of him come off and they turn into something else. So
kind of like War of the Gargantuous?
Yeah, bits of him come off, turn into the people, and more bits of them might come off, and depending on where they came from, they might turn into, like, Rodan, or Anguirus, or maybe even Ghidorah, Varan, who knows?
And that explains why they all have humanoid bodies?
Yeah, maybe having them all come from Godzilla initially is how you make them all the same size, how you make them all look kind of the same, like just kind of vague aesthetics-wise. I don't know, that's what I took from it. Well, but I'm interested to hear some of y'all's others. Anybody else have anything else they wanted to throw out about it?
I just had
one of the. That we're putting way more thought into it than Anno actually did.
We just put it in there.
Like the dude doesn't.
We definitely are.
Sure, he's like.
I think he just put it in there because it's. I think you just put it in there to be provocative imagery, really. And I think the real person with the challenge on their hands is whoever directs the next one, because they got to figure out what the fuck to do with that if it winds up being a direct sequel.
Right, because right now, like Anno, he's pretty certain that Toho is not going to want him to do another Godzilla movie.
Yeah,
he said he doesn't want to come back.
Yeah, he doesn't want to do it, is what I heard. I didn't even.
Yeah, he's like, I'm done with this. This was a nice little vacation. I'm going to go back to my animes.
Yeah, because he wants to do 4.0. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't want him to either. Actually, I think this is his take on Godzilla, and I think I would like to see other people's takes on Godzilla. One idea that I brought up in the Lost recording was that maybe for the sequels in this new line of Japanese Godzilla films, maybe they could keep doing like out there weird stuff, but just bring in a different like super creative like Japanese auteur each time to sort of give his take on it.
That's what they seem
I
to
would
be
love
doing.
that.
That's what they seem to be doing with the animated film next year.
Yeah, I'm excited about that for that reason as
They
well.
they got Gen Urobuchi writing it.
Yeah, the Madoka Magic guy.
What I want to throw out to that point though was that what?
Seems like Toho was finally reaching a point where they're like comfortable like experimenting with the series and like letting people try cool stuff.
Thank God. What I was gonna say though was I kind of want them to keep it in this universe though. Like if they're gonna bring in a Japanese auteur, I want them to be strictly forbidden to do a different continuity. Like I want somebody to come along with like a very different sensibility from Anno and go, all right, do a sequel to this, but do like a different era of Godzilla. You know, this is the original '54 film. This is the '50s. Do a Showa Godzilla movie. Do like a '60s era Godzilla movie, like a traditional '60s bombastic Showa Godzilla. Have Godzilla evolve into something a little scrappier, something a bit more capable of fighting. Throw a bunch of monsters in there, have them fight them all, and then keep it with this kind of weird, like kind of like anything is possible. Godzilla is immensely powerful, kind of more horror bent take, and I don't know. I think you could make something very different that starts with this, that is just as valid and just as interesting with a different director. But I'm with you on that point. Who else has things to say?
Oh, I did want to bring up something that was mentioned. One of the last lines in the film that another reviewer by the name of Gaijin Goomba brought up, where he mentioned he brought the one bit of dialogue where Rondo said that Japan has to learn to live with Godzilla, and this reviewer, this person, he drew comparisons between Godzilla, the ending to this movie, and what occurred with the Fukushima power plant incident, where everyone was trying to prevent this the power plant from melting down. And it's also the fact that in real life, Japan kind of needs nuclear energy. They cannot just straight up give up on nuclear energy altogether, because nuclear energy is kind of like their main source of energy. It's cheap, it's clean, it can be dangerous, but that's something that's their responsibility that they have to keep track of. And so by saying that we have to live with
that Isn't it super ironic that the only country on Earth to ever be bombed with nuclear energy is totally dependent on nuclear energy?
Right, because they can't be like America, just waste a lot of and spend billions upon billions of dollars on imported oil from the Middle East. That's why they rely on nuclear energy as opposed to like oil. I
didn't know that. That's fascinating. Wow.
So it's like they cannot give, despite how dangerous nuclear energy is, they can't straight up give up on it, but they can't be totally dependent on it. They just have to learn to live with it responsibly. And so I think that's what that critic said when he made the comparison between the Fukushima incident and Godzilla, saying we have to live with Godzilla.
Yeah.
This is just a very dangerous, unstable thing that we just have to learn to live with now. We have to be responsible with this thing in our lives now.
Huh, that's crazy interesting.
I think you might be onto something, Bill, with the idea that the ending could be a possible origin for future kaiju in sequels.
Yeah.
And here's why. I just thought of this. If you look at the Fukushima disaster, which I think this movie is more inspired by, obviously, than the World War II thing, because the bomb isn't even mentioned in the movie. I think this is more a commentary on that sort of disaster, especially since it's explained that like somebody had been dumping nuclear waste in the ocean, and that's what caused the mutation.
Yeah.
If you look at the Fukushima disaster, first they had to deal with the disaster itself and the cleanup, and I feel like that, in a metaphorical sense, is them battling Godzilla in the movie. But then after that, there's a whole other problem, which is like the ecological contamination.
Yeah. And they've really lucked out with how short Godzilla's half-life is, but even still.
And I think that's the idea, where now instead of radiation being the ecological contamination, it's like this crazy mutated DNA that's been created that could go off and spawn all kinds of terrible things is now just like...
As a Biollante fan, I love that.
It's just like out there in the fucking ecosystem.
I want Biollante in this universe. I think that's kind of a given. Like,
I think this is the first time they've had a universe to work with that they could very easily work Biollante into, and not have a whole lot of problems doing so. You know, I think she fits.
I feel like she might be the only monster that this Godzilla would have any problem with. Because the angle of plant versus animal, plants win every time. They're way more resilient. Like, they'll just toss their seeds out into the wind and they're fine. Like, an animal, so much rigmarole has to go into survival. But plants, it's so easy.
Tell that to all plants I ate today.
All right. Well, guys, we're over the time that I wanted to spend on this. So why don't we just... Anybody else have anything that they have to get off their chest now?
But do you want to just go around and do, like, final close-up thoughts, and we can just I think that's on our mind.
That's a good point. All right, so closing thoughts. Who's got something to say?
Like closing thoughts and ratings?
Yeah, well, give your closing thoughts, then give your rating. We'll move on to the next one. So, Andres, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, I thought this was a very bold direction for Hideaki Anno and Shinji Higuchi to go in. I really respect what they were trying to do. I know a particular individual. I won't name names, but the person had the idea, not had the idea, but came to the conclusion that who did not like this movie, thought that Anno was trying to spend too much time on his message and not enough time making an actual Godzilla movie. I disagree because I feel the Godzilla aspects and the political aspects go hand in hand together really well, especially considering what Godzilla's relationship with political commentary has been throughout the years. It may not have been as prevalent as other aspects of the Godzilla series, but when the case of Godzilla 54 and 84, they go hand in hand, like I said, go hand in hand really well throughout his in certain points of his history, and I feel like the marriages works really well here. I feel like my biggest issue is the pacing. I feel like this could have gone through a rewrite or two, maybe take out some unneeded exposition, maybe put in a little bit more exposition, better exposition. Because who was the writer of this film? Was it Anno who only wrote this?
Anno only wrote it.
Yeah.
Okay, that explains it.
That does explain some things, right? Yeah.
Yeah. If you had a second person come in to clean up the script, maybe have an editor or two, this could have been like a better crafted film. But as it is now, the final product that we have now, I feel like it is a worthy successor to the Godzilla series. Great use of a great commentary on the state of Japan today in terms of its like identity, its place in the world, and overall just being able to make a really kick-ass and horrifying and haunting monster movie. I think the sum of its parts worked better overall, and that's why I do believe that at the end I will give this movie a 4 out of 5. As before, I was very leaning on between 3.5, a 3, and a 4, but I will definitely say it's a 4, thanks to the information I've gathered since watching it back in July. And that is why I think that, like as I said earlier at the beginning of the podcast, when you asked me what I think if it was better, G14 or G16, at the end, both movies try to be a Godzilla movie, but at the end of the day, this movie turned out to be the superior Godzilla story, and that's essentially my thought. Those are essentially my thoughts.
D, let's jump over to you.
All right, I'd like to echo pretty much all the praise and criticisms that Andres was just giving the film, but also add a little caveat on the end here. One of the reasons I was very skeptical and cautiously optimistic about this film was the announcement of the director. I mean, as soon as they announced that Anno was going to be doing the movie, I knew it was going to be unique, and it only remained to see whether it was going to be good unique or bad unique. Because I think Anno is at his best when he exercises a little restraint. He can definitely go off the rails very easily. And I'd like to give him some credit for all the things he did right or wrong in this film. I think he did definitely exercise some much-needed restraint and managed to balance his crazy out there sensibilities with the Godzilla universe in a pretty admirable way, and was able to walk that line fairly successfully. So with all the things I've criticized in the video and all the things I've praised in this video and what I just said in mind, I come pretty close to Andres' score. I think I was taken out of it by several of the things that I mentioned in the review more than he was, because I think I come down at like a 3.5 out of 5. I've seen some people like saying it's like the best one of the franchise, and it didn't hit me that hard.
No,
but I think it was
not that hard.
but, I think it was definitely a worthy addition to the franchise. Not my favorite, not the worst, just somewhere there in between.
All right, David, let's hear your thoughts.
I have the same praise and criticism with the film. My only criticisms are the pacing and the lack of proper characterization from the characters you get to spend time with. Because I feel that Godzilla 2014, even that film has more character development than Shin, and has more proper build-up than Shin.
Interesting.
But I think comparing Shin and 2014 is like comparing apples and oranges, because they're both different films, and both the country they were produced in and in tone. But in the case of Shin, I really enjoyed it because I also enjoy political dramas, whether they be fictional or satirical. Hence why I like The Return of Godzilla. And with Shin, I really felt like the bureaucracy wasn't lost in me. I know it was lost in some fans, because I felt like those who criticized Shin didn't understand the message, the political message that Shin was trying to reach across.
I don't think all of them did, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, right, because Japan clearly got it, but a few other Western fans, the message was lost in translation.
Exactly.
Maybe because they were expecting one of those fun, goofy Godzilla films. And like I said, the first time I saw this with my best friend, and I had to explain to her the type of Godzilla movie this was. I told her this is not one of those cheesy, fun, mindless Godzilla films where he fights another monster. It's one of those politically heavy films, and I had to explain to her that Godzilla is a representation of the 3/11 earthquake, tsunami, and Fukushima in the ways that he evolves. And at the end of the movie, she claims she liked it, but I feel like she's sparing my feelings. But at the same time, she was also high during the first 45 minutes of the movie.
Well, that'll save any Godzilla movie, I feel. Not that I know from experience.
Even this movie?
From so much experience.
Let's just say that this movie is part of that experience. Okay, Dave, did you have anything else you want to throw in there? Oh, your rating.
Yeah, my rating. But I forgot if I gave it like a 2.5 rating out of 4 last time, but I'm changing my score, if I haven't already, to a solid 3 out of 4 stars.
Okay, cool. I'm glad we could make it better for you, man. Alright, so I agree.
All us.
I agree with everything you guys have said. I mean, we've covered a lot of ground on this podcast, so I'll just be brief. Weekend before I saw this, I rewatched a lot of Evangelion, and I rewatched the original Godzilla. In preparation for that video I did about whether or not I like Evangelion. And I was going to do another video where I just talked about how I felt about the original Godzilla now, but I just didn't have the time and I didn't really want to do it.
You should make a follow-up you should make a follow-up called Do I Like Gunbuster?
I will do. I do like Gunbuster though. It's very good. I'll do that. I'll do a video on Gunbuster.
No. Next day you should do I Like One Punch Man?
Oh, okay, yeah, that because I haven't gone back to that since we watched it. I will do that anyway.
Yeah. And now I think all the episodes are in English now.
Oh, great. Okay, cool. So I will go back to that.
You got to do a Do I Like Daikon 4 video, and it's just you seizuring with that.
I'm just like, I like this a lot. All right. So my final thoughts on Shin Godzilla. I rewatched Gojira. I rewatched Evangelion. I think that kind of made me predestined to sort of love this movie. And I say sort of loved it because I have all the problems with it that you guys had. I just think that I was able to really look past them. By like almost every single one, I was able to go, yeah, but that's really interesting and that's really cool. With a few exceptions, I think the pacing is definitely a problem that everybody has agreed upon. After Godzilla stops and has to recharge, yeah, the movie kind of falls flat for a little bit, until the very end. And I think, there's some issues with the design here and there, there's some issues with the CGI, the political commentary doesn't necessarily always land, but overall, god damn, it was entertaining to see Hideaki Anno's raw take on Godzilla. I really loved that element of it in particular. And again, I went into this wanting Toho to do something weird, and they did. And I'm totally cool with and love this being a what-if Godzilla movie. A movie where it goes, okay, so we're going to take the original premise of Godzilla and do it in the modern day. How is that going to play? And I really liked that element about it, and that is definitely something that I'm really glad to have now that exists. So I definitely have to say that Shin Godzilla is better than Ghostbusters 2. And with that said, kids, why don't we wrap this up? We will be back with you in 2 weeks for a more traditional SOS episode. We're going to be doing a news roundup next time. We'll be covering the recently released updates on the legendary Godzilla franchise. We'll be covering some of the Kong Skull Island stuff that came out, a whole bunch of shit. Lots of stuff has happened in the interim that we've been doing this podcast.
A huge developments in the Legendary's Godzilla 2 production staff.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we have to cover, so we'll talk about that all next time.
Also some Deadpool news that I'm quite sad about that I just saw today.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we have so much to cover. Deadpool.
And a shit ton of controversy on YouTube.
Yeah, Power Rangers trailer, a whole bunch of stuff. We've got a lot to talk about, so we hope you'll join us for when we talk about it next time. But until next time, everyone, be sure to like the SOS Network homepage on Facebook. You can like the Godzilla Odyssey page if you want to get all the episodes for that show early. We're doing a new one soon. We promise it's the end of the month, so we're going to have to roll one of those out, and that'll go up full 24 hours in advance to the YouTube release. So look out for that. What else? You can follow me on Facebook. Just look up Billy Wurster. Or you can follow me on Twitter. Look up @Bill_Wurster. There's a whole bunch of places that you can find me. If you want to follow me on
or you can like the Dank Bill memes page coming soon and pending.
Oh my god, I'm so excited for that. Yes. Oh, I will fucking pimp that out in every video I do from now on. Like the Dank Bill.
Now I'm actually considering doing it.
Oh, I hope you do. You can also follow me on Snapchat if you want. Just look up the sassiest T-Rex. You'll find me. All right. So
Did you steal that idea from the very sassy dinosaur?
Yeah, of course. I just specified it the T-Rex, and I'm the sassiest. So you can't really one-up that. You can't go above that. You could say sassiest. You could say sassiester, but that doesn't work. All right.
Feels kind of unoriginal.
I'm fine with that, D. I'm fine with that. I've never claimed to be original. I just claim to be funny. I don't claim to be that either. I fail at all these things. I'm a bad person. Somebody please save me. I'm in as much pain as Shin Godzilla right now. All right, so until next time, everyone. I'm Bill Wurster, aka Zazibar.
Better than Ghostbusters 2. That's going to be the title of your autobiography, Bill.
I don't think I'm better than Ghostbusters 2.
I think the title will be maybe not better than Ghostbusters 2, but possibly better than Ghostbusters 2016.
I would hope that I'm better than Ghostbusters 2016. David, say your name, please.
You just said my name.
Oh, you son of a bitch! Do the thing! Please!
I am Gorzard, you Neanderthal ninnies.
Oh, thank fucking God.
What? I'm Super DM64.
And I'm Andres Perez, a.k.a. Kaijin Noir. And ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly the way it's been.
All right, keep climbing that tail, kids, trying to reach God. We'll see you next time. The Science of Sound.